Honorable Mikey Romero, are you a senior citizen? You're not, right? So you only have 5 minutes, okay? Klaro to, 5 minutes ka lang.
Baka I need that. So anyway, maraming
Honorable
salamat.
Mikey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay. Uh, I just have two issues to settle in this committee. The first one being a question to Transco. What led to the transfer of Transco to NGCP?
Good afternoon, Mr.
Please
Chair.
reply to the question of Honorable Marcoleta.
Mr. Chair,
Honorable
if I may
Mikey
be
Romero.
allowed to answer. Mr. Chair, it is provided in the EPIRA that the asset, the transmission asset, will be given to a private concessionaire. Nasa EPIRA po yun.
So very clear sa EPIRA na we need to bid this transmission grid, no? Very clear yan. So sino ang nagpabid nito?
Government po ang nagpabid
No, which agency?
through PISAM po.
Yes, no. So I just want to understand yung bidding process at that time, which is 2007. And maybe I can ask Pisam if you can go through or walk us through what happened.
Mr. Chair.
What is the basis also for giving that concession to NGCP or the Monte Oro Consortium at that time?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Congressman.
Please reply.
With regards to the question on the privatization, this is with regards also to the mandate of PISAM to privatize the assets of Napocor, which at that time included also the transmission business. The privatization plan was approved by the JCPC, the JCEC now, and as proposed also to the President at that time, the President of the Republic at that time. So the privatization of the transmission business went through a series of failed biddings, 3 in fact, and finally PISAM was able to privatize through open and competitive bidding the transmission business with 2 participants in the form of Monte Oro, Grid Resources, and San Miguel Corporation, Mr. Chair. Now, as to the bidding parameters, it's always a competitive bidding subject to specific qualifications on the financial and technical qualifications as set by PISAM at that time, Mr. Chair. If I remember, it also followed the qualifications as required by EPIRA that the technical expertise of the potential bidder must be able to be comparable to us, the transmission business in the Philippines, Mr. Chair.
So who are the technical expertise partner of these 2 consortiums?
Mr. Chair, for San Miguel, I'm aware that it was Tenaga Nacional. I think it's a Malaysian company. And for Monte Oro, it's State Grid of China, Mr. Chair.
So at that time, no Filipino company has that technical capability. Is that correct?
The expertise in the transmission business, as specifically stated by EPIRA, no, Mr. Chair, because the expertise in the transmission business was in the form of Transco, and it's not being privatized. It's the concessionaire or the future operator of the transmission business.
So that's why in the terms of reference of your bidding, you required a technical expertise coming from another country. Is that correct?
Based on the, Mr. Chair, based on the requirements, Mr. Chair, the natural technical experts would be coming outside of the country, Mr. Chair.
So did they violate at this point in time and the terms of reference that you have, did NGCP violate any of your bidding procedures at the time?
At that time. Mr. Chair, no. The proof is that we entered into a concession agreement with them. And sorry, I'll step back, Mr. Chair. Now, once we go through a competitive bidding process, there's the bidding process itself, then a post-qualification, wherein we post-qualify the winning bidder based on their financial and technical. And the proof now is now that we actually have an existing concession agreement with NGCP, and which is a result of my assumption that they passed the financial and technical qualifications at that time, Mr. Chair.
Yes, no. So this was 2007, and up to now, NGCP was proclaimed the winning bidder by 3 Republic Acts. Republic Act 9136, the IPIRA law, which according to Transco, allowed them to allowed the bidding process. Of course, the 9184, which the procurement law, which allowed technical partners such as Chinese or Malaysia, no, to be their partners, and the NGC franchise, or the Republic Act 9511, which granted the NGCP's franchise. Now, I'm just curious if which of these laws did we violate, or did NGCP violate?
Please reply.
For at least for on the PISAM side of the issue, Mr. Chair, we have the concession agreement, and we try to continue to implement the concession agreement despite certain non-compliances that we found, and that's why we have actually an arbitration proceedings with NGCP.
So very clear, no violation at that time of the bidding.
At the time of the bidding, Mr. Chair, for
And-
sure we entered into a CA with them, a concession agreement, and
And it
they
was
passed the-
NGCP who proclaimed the winning bidder plus the Chinese technical partner.
as the technical partner.
Correct.
Mr. Chair, yes.
Thank you. No.
Mr. Chair.
DOE.
Sir, I just wanted to,
Yes, please.
if you allow, Mr. Chair.
Please.
There are 2 important documents. Now, there's the concession agreement, which was signed prior to the franchise, which was signed on kailan ba to? 2008.
2008.
February 2008. So that's the concession agreement, which is basically, in simple terms, subcontractor siya ng Transco. And there's provisions there on what they're supposed to deliver. It doesn't say that you cannot deliver once you have right-of-way issues. It just says what are your obligations. Now, following that, I think around the same year, Congress granted NGCP a franchise. Why was that very important? Because the franchise is a requirement in the concession agreement. But under the franchise, under the concession agreement, the issue basically there, even though let's say there are violations, it is bound for arbitration kung may issue ang mga parties. You can't go to ERC or to the courts, or kailangan unahin mo muna mag-arbit sila. Kaya that's why the parties here, NGCP, PISAM, and Transco, they're still under arbitration on some issues pa. So you cannot go, you cannot subject them to a legal proceeding kung hindi mo ma-exhaust yung option na yan. Now, when you go to the franchise, that's the power of Congress. A power of Congress, but also bound for the regulatory powers of ERC and DOE as a policymaker. Pero Mr. Chair, if there are violations under the franchise, it depends on what the issue is. Kasi for example, if you were talking about foreign ownership, it is required to be 60-40. whether it was 60-40, it should have been 60-40 upon the concession agreement and the franchise, and up to today, and all the years in between that. So what are the laws that could be violated? There's Public Service Act, there's Foreign Investments Act na it's stated in the Foreign Investments Act. There's a Constitution also. So marami pong pwedeng
No,
batas.
Yusek Sharon, I'm just asking the bidding process at that time.
Correct.
Yeah.
But what are the
Not
violations?
after. Not after. Yeah. I'll go through it.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you. Thank you. My second issue is who is the body and tasked to regulate the operations of NGCP? Any of the...
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
ERC?
Mr. Chair, ERC is the regulator. We do not regulate their operations to the extent that we run their business for them. But we do conduct, in a way, oversight, because if they want to spend for operations, they need to apply for approval with ERC. If they want to construct a new project, they need to apply for ERC. But I'm not sure if that's what the question meant.
No, I'm just trying to clarify matters. So it's actually ERC, not Transco, who is their regulator. Okay, very clear.
Tama po.
No? So in doing that, who approved the Philippine Grid Code and the Transmission Development Plan of 2020 to 2024?
ERC reply.
Thank you po. The grid code is an issuance of the ERC. The TDP is approved po by the DOE.
So in doing that, so ERC is mandated or has the mandate to approve TDP and the Philippine Grid Code, no?
Not the TDP, Mr. Chair. TDP po kay DOE po yun.
Can you explain, Ma'am Sharon, about the TDP?
TDP is the Transmission Development Plan. Yun yung piniprepare ng NGCP, saying that which projects will be completed at a certain target date, no? And then they plan it out. I think it's, for example, now TDP 2024 to 2040. So it's a span of long period. Ang process niyan, marami lang nangyari kasi previous to this administration. No? But ang process ideally would be prepared by NGCP in coordination with Transco, submitted to DOE for approval. Yun po yun, Mr. Chair.
Is it safe to say that NGCP's operation now is based on those TDPs as the Bible for their operations?
There's the TDP and then there's the grid code also, Mr.
The
Chair.
Power Grid Code. So kung yan ang mga basis natin, so ito yung report card. No? So together with Transco now, ito ngayon ang magiging basis kung ano ang grado ng NGCP for its performance. But can you really use a year-to-year basis as their grade? Because ang daming problema, right of way. No? NGCP, may I ask what are the various problems you have in terms of implementing this TDP?
Mr. Chair, may I just manifest something? Our report cards, strictly speaking, are the metrics that are approved by the ERC. This includes frequency of outages for the line length, etc. But going to your main question, Mr. Chair, what are the most common causes of delay in transmission project implementation? 3, that would be right-of-way, procurement, permitting, procuring our permits to build, and last is regulatory approvals, because we are technically not allowed to pursue projects without ERC approval on a per-project basis and on the regulatory period final determination.
Siguro NGCP, my question is are you okay that 1 year-on-year review or evaluation of your 20-year program should be evaluated?
I think, Mr. Chair, it would be a myopic view to consider the TDP as the primary report card or grading basis against which our performance is based, because that purely, number one, focuses on the construction aspect. But NGCP is the transmission service operator and the grid operator, and our services and what we do encompasses a lot more services than just the construction. This includes our system operations, of course, and of course, most importantly, managing the flow of electricity. So there are many ways we can manage the flow of electricity, and constructing new projects is just one of them. So as long as the metrics that ERC has established for us to follow, there are 14 metrics, I think, that was established in 2013. As long as those metrics are assessed, then you have a complete picture of how NGCP has really managed the transmission system, especially in ensuring that the electricity required by the different consumers are transmitted from the generators.
So I'll ask you a more serious question. Have you violated any of this TDP or the grid code of the Philippines?
It's difficult to say whether there are no violations, but certainly we conduct our business with the end game of not violating anything, which is why we comply with all the orders of the ERC. We are open to all audits and inspections that are within the confines of our concession agreement and our franchise. And we have always conducted our business with the required transparency of a public utility.
So in that case, who should evaluate yung report card nyo?
Mr. Chair, I think it is very clear in the EPIRA that the ERC is the sole regulator of the transmission business.
Lastly, ERC, do you give or evaluate their catch-up plans? No? Let's say, for example, they're nahuli sila ng 30%, 50% of their TDPs. What does ERC do?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And yeah, ma'am, sorry, a follow-up question. Is that a violation already of its franchise?
Mr. Chair, to answer the second question
Yung first muna.
Ay,
Oh,
hindi
sige.
po, yung second
Okay.
mas madali po eh. Kasi yung violation po ng franchise, we defer to Congress as the body that had issued that franchise to determine whether there has been a violation of that franchise. But from our end, there were violations that we have found NGCP committed, and in fact, in at least 2 instances, we have imposed penalties, and they have paid naman po the penalties. One is their failure to comply with DOE regulations on ancillary services contracting. Second, the set of delays, binuo ko na lang po, the delayed projects. There were 37 projects that we investigated. And to explain po kanina, hindi na po ito pending case. Na-resolve na po namin to. We penalized them already. They were absolved of penalties for 2 of the 37. And we have painstakingly gone through each and every reason that was propounded by NGCP for each of those projects, for the delays for each of those projects, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Lastly, do you give them remedies or a catch-up plan for their delays?
Okay. Mr. Chair, dun po kasi sa, hindi ko po alam kung ano pong ibig sabihin ng catch-up plan, but the TDP which they submit to, the TPSR and the TDP which they submit to DOE, gumagalaw po yung deadlines po nila. So I don't know if that's the catch-up plan. But from our end, we reckon their delay based on our approval. Hindi na nga po namin nire-recon dun sa unang pinramis nilang yung period, construction period, dun po namin binabase Kasi nga po, we recognize also, and this is, I think someone mentioned, not owning up to delays. We are owning up to our own delays. That's why we reckon it from the approvals of NGCP's projects.
On those things, what percentage of those delays are caused by ERC?
1 more minute.
Caused by the delay of
The delay in yung promulgate.
meron po na meron mga projects po na ganon. For example, there were I think at least 2 that I can recall that TROs were issued by courts because the courts were saying wala ka pang ERC approval, bakit ka nag-expropriate. So there were those, but yung percentage, Mr. Chair, we don't have it now. We can analyze.
O ma'am,
po.
yung ano na lang, yung buong
General.
general, ilan ba ang pending sa inyong cases?
From NGCP alone,
No,
Mr. Chair?
ERC alone.
Ang pending po namin ay more than 3,000 cases po. Not just NGCP, but the entire industry po yun.
And it takes how many months for you to resolve a particular case?
It depends. It would depend, Mr. Chair. Consumer complaints are easier to dispose of. For projects that are, for cases that are covered by EVOS, we are given only 270 days to resolve for quasi-judicial cases. For those that are under permit, 60 days lang po ang binibigay sa amin. So iba-iba pong period.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Things have been clarified on my part. I floor.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Mikey Romero, and thank you for coming to in today's hearing. You are truly missed. Okay. The chair now will recognize the Honorable Rufus Rodriguez. Silence is requested.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon to our distinguished colleagues, and likewise to our valued resource persons. I have just 4 points after hearing all the discussions. 2 would pertain to the Constitution. 1 is a quasi-judicial process of the ERC. And 3rd and 4th, about some speculations. Let me start with the lower controversy. It has been, reported by the graphs and also from the reports from IMOP and also from Transco, that because of the delay of the projects, our consumers are deprived of a lower cost of electricity. That has been pervasive in this discussion. That is speculative, Mr. Chairman, because there were delays, but there were reasons for the delays. And in fact, the DOE with our colleague has stated that indeed we cannot just directly attribute all the delays to NGCP because there are, like as I've stated in the previous hearing, the Mindanao Visayas interconnection, problems of a golf course, TRO in the Supreme Court, problems of the right of way in Lanao. So therefore, it's speculative that if the projects were already implemented, then it will result to a lower consumer payment of electricity. So that's the first one. The second one is about the ERC. Have you already issued a decision promulgated on the regulatory reset of NGCP?
Not yet, Mr. Chair.
Not yet. And yet we have here drafts of your decision. And I saw it, there are already signatures. And you publish that? My goodness, it is my first time as a practicing lawyer for 45 years that a quasi-judicial body will be publishing a decision, a draft decision, because precisely you are the ultimate decision maker and you are the regulatory agency. I cannot see any judge publishing what will be his decision and getting comments. Is it not that that the procedure that should not be adopted? You collegially decide and then come out. After all, there are parties. The applicant is NGCP. There are intervenors. So maybe know your answer.
Mr. Chair.
The, yeah,
Opo. Those were, the publication were part of the rules, and in fact, those rules were also subjected to public comments, and there were no oppositions to those steps. And Mr. Chair, just to clarify, this is not unique to NGCP. This is part of the the rule-making process for regulated entities.
You know, I think you have to revisit your rules. Look at it now. It's being used. And practically, you'll be influenced when people will be knowing what you're going to decide on and then be able to influence you. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we are open to influence by the public because that is the part of the process, Mr. Chair.
But other influences will not be from the public, but vested interests, Mr. Dimalanta. You see, there are some vested interests who are interested, in fact, in the NGCP franchise. So therefore, you know, if you are a judicial body, you're just like a judicial body, and you should be able, you should not be announcing everything first before your final decision, because after the final decision, there can be the motion for reconsideration. So that is my take as far as your rules of procedure are concerned. Next, Mr. Chairman. We
Please
go
proceed.
now. So first, we have already, in the last hearing, it was clearly established NGCP have paid all the taxes. It has paid all the taxes. BIR states so, ERC states so. Second, the NGCP has complied with for the franchise section on public ownership. They listed a company which has 30% ownership there, corporation already listed. So the second issue, clearly, the NGCP has rightly and fulfilled their obligations in the Section 8 and then Section 7 on taxes. Third, cross-ownership. Clearly, ERC Chairperson Mona said that, you know, the prohibition against cross-ownership had already been amended by the franchise of NGCP. Now, I go to new issues. Now, the next issue is, already in the last hearing, the SEC has already come out with an opinion that chairmen who are foreigners, like in this case, a Chinese is a chairman, has no violation of the constitutional provision under Article 15 that it says there that executive and managerial positions are reserved to Filipinos. Clearly, the chairmanship is not a violation if you have a Chinese or any other foreign individual. Now, what's being brought here is that the chief technical officer, question to SEC, are technical officers executive or managerial positions violating the Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. As to the duties of the Chief Technical Officer, it would largely depend on what is written in the bylaws of NGCP.
NGCP, did you not examine that and then you had a decision and you have certified that there's no violation?
We have no certification that NGCP has not violated any constitutional provision. If I have to manifest that. What I have stated in the last hearing is based on an opinion by the SEC that was issued before, stating that chairman of the board may be a foreign national, but it has to be qualified that his duties will be limited to that of a presiding officer in board meetings.
That's correct. NGCP, okay. Oh, you have secured all the approvals of this chief technical officer. Can you tell us which agencies has approved and has now no objection to your appointment of a chief technical officer who is a Chinese?
Mr. Chairman, the chief technical well, all our technical officers at that time had to go through a gamut of applications for work permits and visas, work visas. We first go to the DOE to get their endorsement, and they will endorse the application to the DOJ, and the DOJ will cascade that application to the
To get that
BID.
endorsement from DOE.
And then the BID, after yes, yes, yes.
Yes,
Well,
yes, for the record. The DOE endorsed your application, endorsed that position to be held by a Chinese, and then you can now go to the Department of Justice and the Bureau of Immigration, which I headed during the time of President Estrada.
Yes, yes, Mr. Chairman. That's the procedure. And then they evaluate the functions that the technical personnel will be performing, and if they are indeed technical in nature, they will issue the permit for the technical personnel.
And were they issued permits from the Bureau of Immigration and the Department of Justice?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
For nobody has questioned these decisions of the agencies that are really looking into whether a position holder violates the Constitution or not. There was now no adverse decision of all the agencies of the government.
Not that we recall, Mr. Chairman.
Was there, because you supervise corporations, was there a complaint of any person against the chief technical officer holding this position that it violates the law?
As of this moment, Mr. Chair, there is no filed complaint regarding that matter, Mr. Chair.
And so therefore, once again, I'm saying that there is no violation at all. And so, chairman can be a foreigner, chief technical officer can be a foreigner. Now, it's clear. Now, let's go to the most basic, the most important constitutional, what pervades the Constitution, and that is national security, Mr. Chairman. It is not mentioned in the Constitution, but in every section, every article of the Constitution, always national security. What is there is national territory, national development, and all of this. So then we go now to the issue of the Chinese with the NGCP. Okay. So now, you stated, Attorney Sagayo, that indeed you have a memorandum of agreement between you and NICA, correct? And NICA, Mr. Chairman, is the primary intelligence gathering and analysis of arm of the Philippine government, carrying out three functions: overt, covert, clandestine intelligence operations. So we have to find out on this issue of national security, which is brought about during the last hearing and then now, that the Chinese are there, and therefore there is this is a question of national security because the Chinese interferes with the NGCP, interferes in its operations, its decision making. And therefore, if they are there, it therefore creates a problem on national security, and which all of us Filipinos will be against if there is any foreign power that will therefore make, decide on the fate of Filipinos. We will know now whether this particular, has the NICA found any violation of NGCP in relations to these Chinese being there as technical or as board directors?
Before you answer, you're 5 minutes up, but we will give you an extension because you're also a senior citizen.
Yes, I invoke
Okay,
that
for
because
those-
otherwise
okay.
there will be no equal
Okay.
protection of the laws.
Okay.
If
Okay,
you are going
proceed.
to give
We will extend.
Congressman Marcoleta and not me. Thank you for the
Okay,
3 minutes.
thank you.
Otherwise, you violate the Constitution.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, please.
Please, attorney.
no finding of any violation by
And-
NICA. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And since when did you have this memorandum allowing NICA to really go into the operations, go into the your distribution system and the influence of the Chinese in the NGCP? When did you have that NICA agreement?
Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Prior
Right.
to this administration, we had been allowing NICA, ISAF to inspect our facilities. During this administration of President Marcos, we entered into a memorandum of agreement with NICA. And also during this administration, we allowed them, Mr. Chairman, to hold office in NGCP. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So you're saying
Proceed.
that NICA, Mr. Chairman, can I proceed? You're saying that the NICA is holding office right there in your premises.
That's what I said, Mr. Chairman.
Wow. And
Thank you.
also, you mentioned about the ISAP. Do you have also agreements with the armed forces of the Republic of the Philippines?
Mr. Chairman, with respect to the armed forces of the Philippines, we have agreements in the local level with respect to the protection of our facilities. And we also have an agreement with the armed forces of the Philippines with respect to reservists. We have reservists who are employees of NGCP who committed themselves to protect the transmission facilities. And Attorney Samboy here is a lieutenant colonel of the reserve forces of the armed forces of the Philippines. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So in all the operations from the time you started in 2008 up to now, has there been any derogatory report and you have been asked by the NICA, the armed forces, and all the intelligence bodies here that you have to be, there are violations in terms of possibility. We're talking about possibilities. Possibility of interference by these Chinese who are always intruding illegally in our West Philippine Sea, and which the Chinese has lost all 8 points in the international arbitral tribunal in Den Haag. Was there any to alert you? Because the NICA is the primary intelligence gathering and analysis of our country. Was there anything from the time you operated up to now that NICA has called your attention to violations?
Mr. Chairman, there's none. We haven't received any notice from NICA, from ISAF, that we are violating security measures and laws. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And my final question is to the President, President Anthony Almeida. You're under oath. Where is Anthony?
Mr. Almeida, please take your respective seat. I
Do
think
you-
he went to the restroom.
Yeah. Do you assure this august committee on franchise, with our distinguished members here present and the valued resource persons, can you state you're under oath that there is no possibility of interference from the Chinese in our operation, especially in the supply of electricity in this country, which was also stated by the chairman, no less than Henry C. Sr., that there is no possibility at all, and everything is fake news, that the Chinese can interfere and can black out the entire country. Can you say that categorically, unequivocally?
Mr. Almeida, you're under oath.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Yes, there is no possibility that, as far as I'm concerned, as a Filipino citizen and as a reserve also of the armed forces, I categorically say that there's no possibility, Mr. Chair, that the Chinese can,
Thank you. And with that, Mr. Chairman, it is clear that the NGCP has not violated any constitutional provision, and even the principles underlying the Constitution. Number
Thank
two, Mr. Chairman, it has clearly followed all the provisions of its franchise. Third, all that they have done has been approved by the ERC. The pass-on of the franchise tax and all the cross ownership and also the public offering. So, Mr. Chairman, I do not see how we can continue with this hearing when there are no violations. Mr. Chairman, that is my question.
Thank you.
Would you again want to go delve on that when clearly the constitutional issues, the franchise issues, the speculations, Mr. Chairman, I think we should already adjourn and let's go to face what are the important bills of our country, like my intelligence bills, my anti-espionage bills,
Thank you
because
very
that
much.
will increase the penalties of spies.
Thank
in
you
this
very
country.
much, the
Thank you.
Honorable Rufus Rodriguez.
Mr. Chair.
Like I said, this is an inquiry, and not because there is a franchise violation, because that is for the committee to make, Congressman Rufus, and not solely within your authority. Okay? That is a collective
Mr. Chair.
decision. So hindi nyo kayang desisyonan ho kung may franchise violation. But again, we're looking at how to bring down the prices of electricity, and we will continue to do so until we're able to achieve that goal. Now,
Mr. Chair. Ay,
the USEC, Janet Garin, is
Sharon, sir.
recognized.
Sharon.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The better Garin. Okay. Okay. No, USEC, Sharon Garin is recognized.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to clarify lang, ang records ng DOE on the approvals of the, ano yun, yung mga magtatrabaho na foreigners, we have from 2018 to 2024, there are directors, senior technical advisor, but we don't have the record of the individual that you are looking for. But maybe if there's such a claim, because that's way back for us, baka pwedeng i-provide lang ng NGCP kung that's the claim, Mr. Chair. Because we don't have it in DOE, Mr. Chair.
Much. Attorney Matibag.
Mr. Chair, gusto ko lang pong ilatag sa committee, the last hearing that we have in the Senate, chaired before by the chairman of Energy and Senate, Senator Win Gatchalian, kasi pina-under oath kanina si President Almeda na hindi possible, na may attacks, gano'n. I think if we will review the transcript of that hearing, he admitted that
Mr. Chairman,
NGCP
point of order. Can a fellow resource person ask or
I'm not asking questions.
comment on the question? Can he cross-examine a fellow?
No. He is not, Honorable Mikey, he is not, because I acknowledge him and for him to state his opinion. May I know what happened to that hearing?
Well,
I was
I'm just
about to ask
trying
that question.
to give something kung ayaw niyong marinig ng...
Yes, go ahead,
I will not
please.
speak.
Please. Ano yun?
Hindi, nag-hearing kasi noon, chaired by... That was the last hearing that we had. That was...
Ano sabi ni, anong
Sinabi niya na...
Point of order,
every day-
Mr. Chairman. Ayun, Melvin.
Attorney
Eh,
Matibag, pwede ba tapusin na ho
Di ba po,
natin?
Mr. Chair, we are here to find the truth.
Yes, correct.
I'm
Go
here
ahead.
as a citizen also.
Okay. Proceed. Please proceed.
I'm not for China, I'm for Philippines.
Okay, go ahead.
Witch
Okay.
hunting here.
So what was
You
said?
don't want to witch hunt
So
here.
for
We are
the,
not with
One
something.
specific company.
I'm stating a fact. You review the Senate
The facts
transcript.
are very clear. I tell you,
Order.
whatever is stated in the Senate is not here. It's what is stated here.
He
yes.
was under oath when he made that statement.
Correct.
We are now in Congress, in the House of Representatives.
Okay,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, if you
Yes.
don't want to hear me,
Again,
I will keep quiet.
like I said, I'm asking you to continue. What was said? Quiet, please.
He stated that NGCP is suffering an attack every day.
Okay.
And
Mr.
just to
Chair,
From
may I be
where?
recognized?
From where?
Kung saan-saan. Maraming yung cyber attack.
Okay. So yun ang issue.
Yun yung sinasabi ko kasi based doon sa sinasabi under oath, wala, hindi pwede.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, may
Okay,
I be
thank you very
recognized?
much. Attorney, sundin lang po ha. I will acknowledge you. Relax ka lang. Okay? So I will, Attorney Matibag, are you done? Have you said your piece?
Okay na po
Let
kasi
it be
baka
said,
magalit po yung mga abogado.
Hindi. Okay, abogado ka rin naman eh. Okay, so pare-pareho kayo abogado. Yun ang mahirap pag maraming abogado. Attorney, okay?
Mr. Chair, thank you.
Yes.
I think Mr. Matibag and I were at that same hearing.
Okay.
And I'd just like to clarify the statement made was cyber attacks on our IT, our corporate system.
Okay.
Our corporate system, unlike our operating system, is indeed connected to the internet. And like any other corporate network, it is subject to periodic attempts. However, thankfully, and I am knocking on wood here, we have not had a breach of our IT for our corporate network. As opposed to our operating network, the one that runs the transmission system, we again emphasize that this is a closed system, disconnected by default from the internet. So there are no cyber attacks possible on the operating network, the OT. Yung IT po, ang binanggit ni Mr. Almeida at that time, and just to put into context what he said, we do suffer certain attempts, but we have been able thus far to repel all those attempts, even though there are certain periods, marami talaga siya.
Maraming salamat po.
Thank
Klaro
you,
po
Mr.
yan.
Chair.
So, I'm sure Attorney Matipag will stand by what he said and what he heard during that hearing. So we will try to get the transcript there. So we will see and compare. Anyway, thank you very much, Attorney. We now proceed to the next interpolator, the Deputy Majority Leader, the Honorable Franz Pumaren.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Just like I think every Filipinos, ang main concern right now is the security issue. Today, or the last 6 months, 8 months, the landscape is totally different now. As we recall, just a few days ago, the PNP was able to apprehend mga spy machines, mga gadgets, and everything. My question here is, tamang sinabi ni Congressman Rufus, was there a violation? But we're talking about national interest. If I may ask the NGCP, what's the nationality of the assistant CTO, if you have?
Attorney Paul, are you raising your hands? Is the question addressed to NGCP? Deputy Majority Leader
Yes.
Franz Pumaren, is that
Yes,
a
yes.
question
I'm asking
to
lang if they have an
NGCP?
assistant, yes, CTO of NGCP.
Attorney Paul?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have an assistant CTO, Engineer Cesar Sanchez. May his soul rest in peace. He is a Filipino citizen. His body is in Iligan now. He just died last week. But he's a Filipino citizen, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Another thing, Mr. Chairman, I noticed it talagang their main priority to hire the CTO, correct me if I'm wrong, is a Chinese national. Tama po ba?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Please proceed.
There is no inclination on our part to specifically hire Chinese as our CTO. As mentioned earlier, Honorable Congressman Pumaren, our CTO now is Engineer Rico Vega, who is a Filipino citizen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I understand that, but meron pending application. Tama po ba?
Wala po, Mr. Chairman. Wala po, Mr. Chairman, considering that he is a Filipino citizen, Mr. Chairman.
So walang nakaposisyon right now. A while ago when Congresswoman Stella Kimbo mentioned it, na meron ng aplikante for that particular position.
Wala po. Siya po.
So ngayon
siya po ang CTO namin, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
si
so
Engineer Rico Vega.
because as for the national interest, we know for the fact na yung position na yun is very vital. And Mr. Chairman, I just want to manifest, it's a very shallow reason for those directors, those Chinese, not to tell us here, that's why they're not here, because yesterday was their annual meeting. Tama, annual meeting. If they find this hearing very important, dapat lumipad sila ngayon. Second, ang isang reason is it's Chinese New Year. Chinese New Year is January 29. I know there's festival, but here, we're in the Philippines. They're officers of NGCP. Mas priority ba sa kanila ang mag-enjoy sa festival? I don't think so. Tama po ba yun, Mr. Chairman? Maybe we can hear from them. That's a very shallow reason. Festival? Tayo ba, if may work tayo dito, we cannot attend because birthday ko, birthday nito? That's the main concern. How can you show us na this Chinese, yung heart nila sa Filipinos para tumulong?
Mr. Chairman, if
Are you done, Honorable?
Yeah,
are you
I
asking
want
for a
an
reply?
answer from the...
Attorney Paul.
Mr. Chairman, with respect to the question, I believe, Mr. Chairman, that, and I'm pretty sure they purchased their tickets prior to the receipt of today's hearing. So that's why they had to fly to China. As to the concerns being raised by Congressman Pumaren, rest assured we will relay all of those things to our Chinese directors.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. And,
Mr. Chairman.
As requested earlier, notices will still be sent to them for the future hearings. Thank you.
Yes, I know that we will invite them. Pero mababaw naman, nakabili ng ticket and everything. If they find this really important, they can still buy another ticket. And Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion also if we can invite yung Nika, yung sinasabi nila na nag-office dyan sa NGCP. As we all know, I hope I'm wrong, baka they're too comfortable with their setup right now in NGCP. Because like what I mentioned, the dynamics right now totally changed with regards to what's happening here in the Philippines. With regards to, I'm not trying to zero in on the directors or officers of Chinese nationals in NGCP. Pero ngayon, iba na po ang dynamics, iba na po ang landscape. A few days ago, may nahuli tayong Chinese na nag-spy. Diba? So, if we can invite also yung Nika, the one in charge of Nika, or the one assigned to that particular office, para we can hear kung ano po talagang what's happening.
Yeah, take note of that. And indeed, the security issue is something that is in, I would say, top of the list or top of mind of all Filipinos. Yes, the Honorable Franz Pumaren.
Yeah,
Sir.
ano lang yun, that's my query lang. It's just so frustrating, you know, those Chinese nationals, parang napaka-special for them, hearing ang Rason Festival, nakabili ng ticket. Don't tell me they cannot afford to buy another ticket if they find this really important.
Thank you very much.
Parang pinoproteksyonan pa ng kapwa Pilipino na gina-justify pa that they're not here. That's so frustrating. Where is our national pride here?
Chairman?
Thank you. Thank you, the Honorable Franz Pumaren. Yes, Attorney Paul, we will invite them in the next hearings
Mr. Chairman,
until they run out of holidays. Yes. Attorney Paul.
Yes, we would like to assure this body that we are also Filipino citizens. We take our nationality and citizenship very seriously. Nandyan po kami, and we would like to assure the body, as Mr. Henry C. mentioned in his statement, nung pumasok yung grupo po namin dyan, nandyan na yan. Nandyan na yung mga Chinese. They were part of the bidders. Partners po sila ng MOG more. Now, Mr. Chairman, we would because I keep hearing all of these things, na simply because we have Chinese partners does not make us less patriotic than the others. We would want to assure everybody that we are there, we are guarding the national interest, and it is part of our commitment in our concession agreement and our franchise. the interest of the Philippines will always prevail. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much,
Mr. Chairman,
Attorney
if I may
Paul. Yes.
comment on that statement.
Please,
You know,
you still have the floor.
his statement is music to my ears, na talagang patriotic, everything. Pero ang point ko dito, kung talagang may national concern siya dito, ano ba naman, kahit inabot na nila yung Chinese nationals, ano ba naman explain nila that you have to attend that hearing? It's important. It's just a one-day hearing. You can fly back again to China and enjoy those festivals. That's my main concern. Kung talagang sinasabi mong may national pride kayo, may patriotic kayo, in-explain nyo fully to those Chinese that they should be here. Hindi
Thank
naman na January 20 pa yung talagang holiday ng Chinese eh.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. So,
Noted.
wag tayong magsalita ng very patriotic tayo and everything. If you're really patriotic, you should have explained that to the Chinese people that they should be here. Pampabastos yung ginawa nyo sa amin eh.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Franz, Deputy Majority Leader Franz Pomaren, and your statements are duly noted. So now we proceed to the next interpreter. Thank you very much. From the first district of a second district, pala, no? Second district. The Honorable Luistro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I remember part of my interpellation is on the SCADA and NARI. We've heard the explanation of the technical personnel of NGCP. And having heard that Attorney Melvin Matibag used to be connected with Transco, I believe he's an expert witness or resource person as well. I wish to request Attorney Matibag to please enlighten us what is ESCADA, what is NARI, and kindly correlate their significance to each other.
Well, yung SCADA po, thank you po, no? Yung SCADA is the system. Yung po yung, that's generic, yung parang yun yung, that is supervisory control and data gathering na ginagawa po nila. No? Yung NARI po, that is the brand of the equipment, hardware, software, na nilagay nung pumasok po ang NGCP. Before that, ang nandun po is GE, tsaka ABB. Bago pa po lahat yan, bago lahat yung mga system na yan, nilagay nila yung NARI. Kaya nung pinag-uusapan natin yung problema ng China, kaya po lumalabas yan, kaya may suspecha tayo. Dahil, kagaya ng explanation ko po, ulitin ko po kanina, ang cellphone natin to iPhone, this is the hardware. But this is run by a software, iOS. Kayo po ba naniniwala na yung nilalagay nyo dyan, hindi nakikita doon nung gumagawa? Knowing that ang NARI is proprietary. May source code po yan. Kanina sinabi, nasa kanila raw yung source code. Parang yung election po, since mag-election, COMELEC, may source code dyan. Nakikita ng COMELEC yan. Alam po yan ng COMELEC. Bakit nilagay yung NARI? Nung tiningnan po namin kung ano yung NARI, is a state-owned company of China na sila provider po ng mga equipment, as intelligence equipment, military po, kasama po doon sa mga military grade po. In fact, when we do the research, lumabas sa website nila noong December 2019, lumabas doon sa website nila na sinasabi pa nila na 100% they control the power grid of the Philippines. Nung iniraise po namin yung issue na yan, on the next hearing, wala na po yung website. Binura na yung nakalagay na yon. Pero meron po kami noon. In fact, we provided the Senate. I think meron din pong kopya rito dahil nagiring din dito.
Attorney Matibag, if I may interrupt,
Opo.
that publication, correct me if I'm wrong, is the same printout that we flashed during the last hearing.
That
Do
is
you
correct
confirm
po.
that?
That is correct. Sa website po, lifted from the website of NARI.
So you confirm that from the website of is it not the State Grid China Corporation's publication and not NARI?
NARI publication po yun, and NARI is a state-owned company, the same as State Grid of China, a state-owned company of China.
I understand. So NARI is a subsidiary of State Grid China
They are
Corporation.
separate company po. If we are familiar with the ownership sa China, alam nyo, mga state-owned po yan, mga government-owned. Parehas po sila. And when you research doon sa website, noon nga, sa website ng NARI, lumalabas doon, they supply military intelligence, mga equipment na parehas ng ginagamit po sa atin. Ngayon, yung pong data gathering, ang tanong ko nga, anybody can answer po siguro, educate me. Kayo po ba naniniwala yung cellphone nyo, yung mga nakalagay dyan na data, yung mga pinapasok nyo dyan, hindi alam nung gumawa nito. Hindi ba pag nalock nga to, pwede ka nga mag-message, sasabi ka nga ron, mabubuksan mo.
For the enlightenment of the Filipino people who are watching us, Attorney Matibag, you mentioned about iOS.
Opo.
No? So let me borrow your term. Would you confirm if I would say that NARI is similar to being the iOS of SCADA?
Tama po, kasi yung hardware and software, parehas pong NARI. I think they can confirm that. Ayun, sinasabi nila, nasa kanila yung source code. Then I go back to go to the next level. Sabi nila may audit. Question, meron po bang cyber audit na naganap? Nandun daw yung NICA. I know that eh. Kaya po sila pumayag dyan. They were ordered by the Senate at that time, papasukin, nag-imbestiga, pumasok. Ginawa nila yon, hindi kasama Transco. At my time.
Attorney, I appreciate your generosity of information, but
Opo.
let's do this one at a
Okay
time
po. Sige po.
for us to be followed by the viewing Filipino people.
Sige
This
po.
is highly technical and even myself find it really difficult to absorb.
Opo.
Let's start with, what does SCADA stands for?
Is the supervisory control and data acquisition.
How about NARI? What
Yung
does
NARI
it
po
stand
is a
for?
brand. It's a brand.
Yeah,
Parang
but it is
iPhone.
an acronym. What does NARI stands for?
NARI. Wala po sa website.
Anyone
nila eh.
from NGCP? Because according to you,
ayun.
this is an equipment which you are using in the operation of NGCP.
Nanjing Automation Research Institute.
Did you say Nanjing?
Opo.
Nanjing
Automation
Research Institute.
Opo.
Okay. Following your statement that NARI is the iOS of SCADA,
Opo.
would it be correct to say that this system can be controlled remotely,
100%
similar
po.
to my Apple?
100% po,
Phone.
pwede. Because there was already, may nangyari na po eh, na may nasira noon. It was repaired remotely. From China, hindi po kailangan bumahin ng technician para pumunta rito at ayusin pa yung nasira.
All right.
Nangyari na po yan, 2 beses na.
And considering that NARI originated from Nanjing, would it be possible also that somebody from Nanjing will be operating our system as SCADA here in the Philippines, remote? The one operating is in Nanjing, and the hardware is here, the SCADA at NGCP.
Very possible po with the technology now. 100% possible po yan. Kasi nangyayari nga po eh. I will cite an example if you will allow me, ma'am.
Yes,
Sa Ukraine, twice there was an attack, cyber attack, sa power grid mismo. Napasok. Hindi po sila pumasok na may baril na pinasok pa yung control center and all. It was hacked 3 days before na power up ulit ng Ukraine. And to find out, intelligence services noon, they found out na that is prelude already doon sa nangyayari ngayon na gera.
Kanina, Attorney Matibag, you made mention about the nature of this NARI, the company,
Opo.
that it has something to do with the military of China. Can you
Opo.
please expound on this?
Yun po yung sinabi sa website nila. Kasi they also supply military hardware.
In other words, the business of NARI is the supply of highly sophisticated
Hardware
technology,
and software po.
hardware and
For
software,
communication and data gathering.
which can be used as well by the military.
If you will allow me again, ma'am,
Yes, please.
just recently, United Kingdom They have 15% na equipment na NARI, they remove it.
Why did they remove?
For reason of national security po. Example na lang po, hindi ba, ang Amerika, they ban TikTok. Bakit? Because sabi nila, they suspicion lang that is being used to gather data sa Amerika. Sayo nga po, nandun na mismo yung system, hardware and software. NARI, China. Nagpapatakbo, China. I may agree with Engineer Clark na sige, sa akin yung source code. Pero sino pang may alam ng source code? Tama po kayo nung sinabi nyo nung last hearing. The creature cannot rise above the creator. Tama po yun. Ako, I'm certain of this. Huwag na po tayong magtalo sinong mas Pilipino, tsaka sinong hindi Pilipino, sinong kampi sa China. Hindi. I'm stating kung ano po yung factual na nangyayari. And anybody can refute it. They may do so.
Mr. Chair, considering that the informations which are being shared to us by Attorney Matibag is indeed alarming, would it be possible for the committee to invite a representative from NARI, Nanjing Automation Research Institute? I believe this is a Chinese
Yes.
corporation.
Well, ma'am, if you will allow me, no?
Please.
This is really, ako po natatakot. Bumubulong nga ako kay Chair mo na hindi na lang yung pera yung pinag-uusapan natin dito eh. We're talking about our sovereignty. Sovereignty yan natin. And our sovereignty has no price tag. Hindi na po tayo kailangang lusubin or anything eh. Kalikutin lang nila yung power grid natin. Just imagine, anyone who's listening now, and anyone who's saying na wala pupuntahan itong pinag-uusapan natin na to, isipin nyo lang, 1 linggo, 2 linggo, 1 buwan wala tayong kuryente. Madali po yung sinasabi nila eh. Sasabihin nila, I'm guaranteeing it, I'm guaranteeing it. Pag nangyari na po, asan tayo lahat? Asan tayo lahat? UK made the move. Ako po, kaya ako nagsasalita ng ganito. May position before. I'm not talking about the commercial transaction na ng NGCP. Okay na yan. May pera, may kinikita. It's good thing. One good congressman mentioned about the Maharlika Wealth Fund. It's a sovereign wealth fund. Ang tawag niyan, sovereign wealth fund. In fact, I'm writing an article sa dyaryo, sinulat ko yan, that we must support the Maharlika Wealth Fund and invest it in transmission. Kasi total, may 20% na dapat dinisperse to the public. The reason why is hindi para kumita yung gobyerno, for me, but the reason is to protect our sovereignty. Para meron tayong magche-check man lamang. I mean, people na nandirito, mga taga-NGCP, they're employees, they're officers. They're making their livelihood out of NGCP. We cannot fault them for defending it. If I'm on their side, baka mas malala pa yung ginagawa ko. But now I'm standing here not as a president of Transco, as an individual, as a citizen, na tinitingnan ko. What I'm telling you, totoo po yan. Kung gusto nyo, sama-sama tayo pumunta, submit it to cyber audit.
Mr. Chair, may we ask the NGCP if it is possible for them to provide us a representative from NARI?
Can reply. Attorney Paul, Attorney...
Mr. Chairman, can I pass the mic to Engineer Clark?
Mr. Chair, I believe that the question is answerable simply by a yes or a no, whether they
Yeah.
will provide a representative or not, with all due respect.
They would like, the question is, can we ask Nari to appear before this committee? Can you help us?
I
To
believe we
answer
cannot.
some questions that the committee has, even in an executive session.
We'll try to ask our Chinese partners, but definitely, Mr. Chairman, at the moment, personally, I cannot. I do not even know a representative from NARI.
Okay, thank you.
Because
So
this
we
is a
will-
Chinese corporation. And chances are, the people in NARI are all Chinese people. And that's what makes this situation so difficult for us Filipino citizens. Yes, Attorney Melvin, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, it defies logic yung sinasabi. I apologize, pero para sa akin, hindi ka tanggap-tanggap eh. NARI is a supplier. Ibig sabihin, contractor ng NGCP yan. Hanggang ngayon, binabayaran nyo yan. Hindi naman pwedeng hindi nyo imbitahan. And they will say, kung hindi kayo mag-appear dito, tigil na namin bayad, kuha na kami ng iba na supplier. I don't know. I might be wrong. I will leave the better judgment to the honorable gentlemen and gentlewomen of this honorable committee.
Thank you. That's something that we will have to discuss and request. Because I think it does make sense that if they are your supplier, then for transparency, without going into issue of protocols, or then we can ask, because I think there are questions. May I know,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
if I may, I think we need an answer from them. If
Congresswoman-
supplier nila talaga yung
yes,
NARI.
yes, Attorney Paul, they are your supplier, correct?
Yes, sir.
They're your
na-
supplier. So, binabayaran niya yan buwan-buwan.
Sir, I would just like to clarify regarding the points being raised by Mr. Matibag. First, on the hardware.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair,
Binabayaran niyo ba buwan-buwan yan as a supplier?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Okay, klaro tayo.
no, sir, not every month. Once they supply the equipment, the software, and then after the commissioning, full control and operation is with.
How about
within us.
after sales service?
You have, sir, we maintain maintenance service agreement with them. So kung
Yun.
may problem
Yun,
po,
may ano pa yun.
pupunta
So may
sila.
relationship pa rin kayo.
Meron pa
Thank
rin
you.
po.
Okay, klaro yan.
Mr. Chairman, sorry again, no?
Yeah, don't
Pero
go tomorrow.
I couldn't understand bakit ang sagot ni attorney, hindi niya kaya imbitahin. Meron palang working relationship sila.
Attorney.
That's why, with the answer of our technical partner, Mr. Chairman, we will endeavor that a representative from, if we can, NARI, will attend the next hearing.
Proceed.
Mr. Chair.
Before, kasi related to because I noticed the consultant for the regulatory reset of ERC are foreigners, but they are here. Hindi po ba Chinese New Year sa kanila? Hindi po. So, yun lang po. I just have to make a point.
Mr. Chair, we will go back to you, Attorney Matibag. But please let this representation continue with the interpellation. Kanina po nabanggit yung Senate hearing. Our resource person relayed to us that President Almeda made a testimony about the cyber attacks, whether it is against the corporate system or the system of NGCP. I wish to be certain. The committee wishes to be certain. We have reports as well that in the same Senate inquiry, Transco consultant by the name Ronaldo Del Mundo testified that NARI is a transmission control operation of platform system which allows remote access. This is according to consultant Ronaldo Del Mundo of Trasco. And to add, Mr. Chair, in the same Senate inquiry, the same Mr. Del Mundo testified as well that NARI is a computer control na pwedeng mag-switch on, switch off ng circuit breaker ng power plants. Mr. Chair, I wish to believe that the transcript of records of this Senate inquiry forms part of the public records. Therefore, Mr. Chair, this representation humbly move that we request for a copy of this transcript for all of us to be enlightened on the testimony that were given already by President Almeda, along with Ronaldo Del Mundo, because these are under oath testimonies, which should not be contradicted when they testify on a different forum or investigation. So, Mr. Chair.
There's a motion. Any second? Duly seconded. Chairing objection. The motion of the Honorable Luistro is approved. COMSEC, please carry out the letter request to the Senate. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I recall likewise that during the last hearing, I manifested my desire to conduct an ocular inspection of this system control, which we allege as NARI until we are able to verify, of NGCP. However, Mr. Chair, I found out from the records that since 2019, in spite of the regulatory power given to Transco, to ERC, wala pa palang nangyayaring system audit dito sa system control ng NGCP ever since. May we request a confirmation from NGCP? May we request President Almeda? Medyo nakakapagtaka na po. Our President is here, pero mukhang mas knowledgeable si Attorney Sagayo. What does SGP stands for, with all due respect?
Attorney Sagayo.
Mr. Chairman, SGP stands for Synergy Grid and Development Philippines Incorporated.
Thank you, Attorney Sagayo, but I would prefer, I hope you don't mind,
I don't mind, sir.
to hear an answer
But
from our NGCP President.
in the absence of President
Saan po
Almeda, I'm
nagpunta
a
si-
director of NGCP.
Yes, for the information of everyone, he approached the chair earlier.
He left already?
Yes, because of another meeting that he has
Okay.
at 5 o'clock. So he had to excuse himself. Thank you.
With that, then, we will be pleased to hear your answer, Attorney Sagayo.
The question is whether, Mr. Chairman, I mentioned earlier that under the concession agreement 2.01, specifically Transco has no regulatory powers over NGCP.
Are you trying to say, Attorney Sagayo, that there is no basis at all for Transco to visit and inspect the system control of NGCP?
Mr. Chairman,
Is that your stand?
No, Mr. Chairman. As I've said, Mr. Chairman, earlier, they can always visit, but subject to certain
How about
protocols.
inspect?
No problem, but subject to
All right, so
certain
let me
protocols.
rephrase my question. Since the concession agreement in 2019, was there a time that the Transco inspected the system control of NGCP? Yes or no?
There was an instance. I think,
Iba po yung visit, iba po yung inspection.
Mr. Chair, if I may respond, may be recognized po. Mr. Chair.
Is attorney from NGCP?
Yes, Mr.
Can you
Chair.
answer the question?
As mentioned by Transco earlier, written into the concession agreement is an agreement by which Transco, together with PSOM, will form a committee for the purpose of inspecting both facilities and the books of NGCP, and that is conducted annually.
By facilities, does it include the system control? The system control, attorney, I hope you understand. Very
Mr. Chair, I will have
sophisticated.
to, I think that the intention of that, I have to go back and confirm which facilities are covered by the TR flat.
I
But
hope we
again-
confine our answer, Mr. Chair, to the question whether or not the system control was inspected. I think this is self-explanatory already. And by inspected, I wish to believe, hindi po yan basta tinititigan lang. You have to allow the party to touch, operate, test, That's how we inspect, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair, may I amend my answer a little? Sorry, I'm just going to add a little. The ERC actually conducted a thorough cybersecurity audit of NGCP, including a VAPT. And that will, I think, address the concern, Mr. Chair, on not just looking visually, but also testing the ability of the systems to withstand.
Mr. Chair, was it the ERC which was mentioned by our lawyer from NGCP? So may we hear a confirmation from ERC?
Mr. Chair, yes, we were able to, the ERC through consultants were able to do cybersecurity audit on NGCP.
Were you able to
NGCP
rule
systems.
out the apprehension that this system control cannot be controlled remotely, especially those who are not Filipino citizens and outside our country? Were you able to rule that out?
No,
Yes or no?
No, Mr. Chair.
Because that is the danger that we are trying to avoid.
Mr. Chair.
Please let this representation continue. Likewise, Mr. Chair, in 2010, nag-issue din po ang DOE. This is Department Order Number DO 2010-080015, the title of which, Creating the Technical Working Group for the Audit of the National Grid Corporation System Operations and Metering Service Operations. However, based on reports, pagkatapos ng dalawang meeting, allegedly, the DOE was questioned already by the NGCP at hindi na po natuloy itong system audit ordered by number 0015. Can we hear from NGCP?
Mr. Chairman. Yeah.
Tony Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our position had always been that under our concession agreement, it is the ERC that has regulatory powers over NGCP, and that is why ERC is conducting several audits already insofar as NGCP
Attorney
is concerned.
Sagayo, with all
Yes.
due respect, yes or no lang po, natuloy po ba yung system audit ng DOE?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Next
no.
question, Mr. Chair. In 2016, mayroon pong ERC Resolution Number 4, Series of 2016. This is dated April 5, 2016. A resolution directing the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines to procure an independent party to conduct an independent review of its operation system as system operator. Tanong po, Attorney Sagayo, natuloy po ba ito? Independent party, yes or no?
Can we check that ERC resolution? This is the first time that I heard that, Mr. Chairman.
But at least you can state for a fact whether nagkaroon po ng independent party provided by ERC to conduct the system audit.
The ERC is conducting audit now on several fronts, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, since the answer of Attorney Sagayon is not completely responsive to the question, may I direct this question to ERC? Kayo po ba ay nag-engage ng independent party to conduct the system audit?
Not in the 2016 period, Mr.
In other
Chair.
words, Attorney Di Malanta, this ERC Resolution Number 4, Series of 2016, was never realized.
That's what I was asking, Mr. Chair. That was before my time, but I understand it was not carried out either.
And Mr. Chair, to continue, 2017, nag-issue din po si DOE Secretary Alfonso Cusi, Department Circular Number DC 2017-12-0016, the title of which, Adopting the Guidelines for the Performance Assessment and audit of all power generation, transmission, and distribution systems and facilities. Ito po ba'y natuloy, Attorney Di Malanta?
As far as I know, Mr. Chair, hindi rin po yan natuloy.
Having said all those, bakit po kaya hindi matuloy ang system audit ng NGCP?
Mr. Chair, for the record, we were able to, the ERC was able to do a system audit in 2020, kailan po ba yan? 2022 po. Yung mga nabanggit po na resolutions, hindi po yun na-implement for various reasons. I think there were some hesitation or reluctance on the part of the auditee.
On the part of?
Of NGCP po.
Do you confirm that hesitation and reluctance on the part of the NGCP?
Oh, which one? That we are reluctant.
Regarding the system audit, why this 2016 and 2017 orders of DOE, ERC were never pushed through?
Mr. Chairman, what we have been saying all along is it is the ERC that has regulatory powers over NGCP. And when it was ERC that ordered the audit of NGCP, we cooperated. Whatever documents that they required, we submitted.
Nonetheless, Mr. Chair, let me wind up on this. Since 2009, there's no system audit conducted which will rule out the apprehension that this system control of NGCP cannot be controlled remotely. Second, DOE Order number 2010-080015 regarding the system operation and metering service operations audit was never realized as well. ERC Resolution number 4, Series of 2016, concerning system audit was likewise not realized. And in 2017, DOE Secretary Circular number 0016 was likewise not implemented. Mr. Chair, I'm stating a fact that since 2009, followed by 2010, and then 2016, and then 2017, there was never a system audit. The 2020 system audit that was shared to us by Attorney Di Malanta, per her own admission, did not rule out the apprehension that this system of NGCP cannot be controlled remotely. Mr. Chair, with all due respect to my idol, Attorney Rufus Rodriguez.
Mr. Chairman, can I correct some of my answers? Sorry, with respect to...
Is that okay?
If okay with you.
Yes. Which particular answer do you want to correct?
Mr. Chairman, with respect to a third-party auditor, there was a risk assessment and vulnerability assessment and penetration testing in operational technology infra was conducted by NGCP's third-party auditor, KPMG.
When?
This was in August 2022.
Mr. Chair, the question is about ERC Resolution number 4, Series of 2016. These representation are manifesting facts which happened in 2010, in 2009, in 2016, and in 2017. And in conclusion, Mr. Chair, all the system audit mandated by various resolutions and circulars were never realized.
Mr. Chairman, I was mentioned as an idol. So may we know on what connection? By my idol also? One of the best performing members of the Quad Committee and also now here? What was it about? Because I also have to answer, the right to reply.
Mr. Chair, earlier, the Honorable Rodriguez manifested that the chairmanship of the board is allowed for foreign nationals. During his interpellation, it was likewise manifested that the chief technical officer was seemingly allowed by DOJ permits and other agencies' documentation. However, Mr. Chair, I am reminded by one important document that we are requesting from the NGCP, and that is the shareholders' agreement. I wish to humbly submit, Mr. Chair, that we will not be able to determine really whether the chairman exercised managerial and executive function and even the chief technical officer until and unless we see the shareholders' agreement. On this light, Mr. Chair, this representation humbly move that we issue subpoena duces tecum to NGCP for them to submit the shareholders' agreement to this committee. So move, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, in addition to the motion, Mr. Chair?
May I just make a clarification? There was a subpoena duces tecum already issued to them in this regard. And their answer is there's another document I saw. Well, anyway, that I remember seeing that
I was present. I confirm that, Mr. Chairman. There was a subpoena issued on the
it
share
said here, sent January 22, signed by Cheryl Saldena de Leon, Corporate Secretary of Synergy Grid Development Philippines. We note that the first item under subpoena duces tecum, the shareholders agreement among SGP, OTHI, and P21 does not exist. Thus, no such document is in SGP's records. Maybe
Mr. Chairman, what we are asking is not the shareholders agreement between SGP and the NGCP. What we are asking is the shareholders agreement between NGCP and the State Grid of China. Yung pong hinihingi natin is State Grid of China.
Okay.
Para malaman po
Okay,
natin.
so
kung,
there's a
doon po sa
motion.
agreement, Mr. Chairman, if I may, para malaman lang po natin kung ano po nakalagay doon kung talagang kinokontrol ng Chinese yung kanilang pong maintenance operation.
So is that correct?
That will be agreeable, Mr. Chair.
Yes, so that's the motion.
I recall, Mr. Chair, that both the chairman and the chief technical officer are both stockholders. So I wish to see as well from that document what participation do they have with respect to the management of the NGCP.
Okay, subpoena duces tecum on the motion of the Honorable Jinky Luistro, duly seconded by the Honorable Roger Gutierrez. The chair, no objections. Motion is approved. We now proceed. You still have the floor.
Chairman,
Yes, Honorable Rufus
just like
Rodriguez.
to make some comments regarding the manifestation
Please.
of Congresswoman Luistro. It was stated that the NGCP, there was really no compliance of the order of the ERC and also sa DOE for the audit. Is that correct? Congresswoman, yes.
I believe,
Yeah.
Honorable Rodriguez, that I read the title of the
Yes.
circular and the resolutions
Yes.
which I mentioned.
Yes. Yeah. Mr. Chairman, the ERC is the regulatory agency with all the powers to regulate NGCP. It's not a matter of they're not interested to have that implemented or the resistance, because it is the ERC who should have implemented it, whether they like it or not. It is not the fault of NGCP that there was nothing done, because you are the regulator. Is that correct, Ms. De Malanta?
That's correct.
Yeah, you are. So therefore, the
So,
fact that continue is not the fault of NGCP. It is the ERC which has failed to implement it. And she
Yes,
was not yet the head at the time.
Chair Di Malanta,
Yeah.
please reply.
Mr. Chair, if I may reply. as recognized by the honorable representative, I am not able to explain why it was not implemented in 2016. But when a new performance assessment was organized by the DOE, and then we participated also because of the position of NGCP that only ERC is the one that they recognize. We participated and led the assessment, but still NGCP refused to provide those documents, and we have letters to show, Mr. Chair, that they refused. So, but we continued with the assessment.
Then you should direct them under pain of contempt and pain of penalty. That is how a regulatory agency would do.
We did, Mr. Chair.
If you're sleeping on the job, they have first a resistance and you will not insist. What kind of a regulatory agency are you? You have to do it.
Yes.
I'm
Mr.
glad that
Chair.
you are now there and you have already started that. And that is not their fault that 2016, 18, 19, 20, there was no systems audit because you did not insist. You have the full powers and yet you waive that power. So just that, Mr. Chairman, to put it in the proper perspective, it could have been done. And we wish it will be done during your term. And let them not resist it. Otherwise, you penalize them. That is the power of the ERC. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Much, Attorney Rufus
Mr. Chair,
Rodriguez. The Honorable Jinky,
I wish to wind up.
please.
The apprehensions that we are facing right now about having our national grid possibly controlled by foreign national is right before our eyes. While it is just an apprehension, this is a question that needs to be answered with absolute certainty. With our present situation in the West Philippine Sea, Mr. Chair, I hope the Filipino people are walking with me right now. Exclusive in an economic zone, which is exclusive for Filipino citizens, as confirmed by UNCLOS, as confirmed by the international arbitration. And yet we continue to be harassed, threatened, and even injured by foreign nationals right in our sovereign land. With this situation, will you have the peace of mind na ipagtiwala ang kaisa-isa mong national grid sa kaaway mo sa West Philippine Sea? Will you have the peace of mind that the national grid relies on these Chinese citizens who are maligning, harassing, threatening our fellow Filipinos? Will you have the peace of mind that no Filipinos understand this technology and only Chinese engineers do? Will you have the peace of mind that the technology can be controlled by somebody in Nanjing, leaving all of us helpless? All aspects of Filipinos' lives rely on electricity. Manufacturing, transportation, communication, you name it. What will happen to us if indeed this technology is under Chinese control and they decide to sabotage our country? I can be wrong. We can be wrong. But the question is, what if this apprehension is correct? My point, Mr. Chair, to NGCP, give us the concrete, tangible, apparent, and absolute reason to believe that our transmission grid is under Filipino control and never under the Chinese control. With that, Mr. Chair, I conclude. Maraming salamat po.
The Honorable Jinky Luistro for that very powerful manifestation. So the burden of proof, of course, is again with NGCP. So now we proceed to the next interpolator, the Honorable Ortega. Please.
Mr. Chair.
Who
Mr. Chair.
is, yes, Attorney, the Honorable Ortega.
Yeah, I just want to address some of the questions left hanging from the question from the interpellation of
There's
Honorable
no
Ortega.
question, sir.
There was one, boss, sir, about whether the system operations was part of the audit conducted by ERC.
Are you still at it? I think
The
she
question,
concluded.
Mr. Chair, has reference with particular, circular, and resolution. And I believe that all those questions have been answered already.
Thank you. Okay, we proceed. Honorable Ortega, you have the floor.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Madami na po na natanong actually pa. Medyo dodoble na po yung mga katanungan natin. I would just like to double down po sa mga requests po, sa mga manifestations kanina, saka of course yung subpoena ni Kong Jinky na we are expecting na NGCP yung full cooperation po ng NGCP dito kasi parang there are some irregularities na nga po na lumalabas, not only with the franchise, but yun nga po, sabi ni Kong Jingy kanina, there are already questions of security, national security and national interest. So, kanina po ako kinakalabit nung katabi ko. So, Mr. Chair, I would like to yield my time to my childhood idol, the Honorable Dan Fernandez.
Fernandez is not at his time.
Salamat po.
Hindi pa oras na yun. Meron pang iba.
Yielded back.
Point of clarification lang po, Mr. Chair.
Akala ko idadagdag sa oras mo mamaya.
Hindi, he's yielding his time.
Okay, 5 minutes.
Presentation.
He's not a senior citizen, you have 5 minutes.
Kasi naputol po ako, pinutol niyo ako, chairman, kanina eh. So, pero gusto ko na magpahuli para at least nasa akin na yung full time. Pero hindi ako aalis dito hanggang hindi ko po natatapos lahat ng presentation natin. Anyway,
Mr. Chair, with due respect,
Mr. Chairman,
to Mr. Chair, just a clarification with due respect to Chairman Dan Fernandez. If a member yields his time to another member, does that mean that the sequence of interpellator will go as in order? Because or idadagdag na lang po yung oras. For example, when the time comes that Chairman Dan Fernandez will be asking his interpellation.
Yes, the procedure is the slot. If they yield the time, the slot is taken over by another member.
Okay, akala ko idadagdag lang yun sa oras.
That's
kaya
what
mas
I thought
mataas.
until I was corrected by the COMSEC. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
So,
Thank you,
so,
Chairman Dan.
Thank you. So, the Honorable Dan, 5 minutes.
okay. Recap po tayo, no? Kasi naputol po tayo kanina. So, again, yung pong third regulatory period, Mr. Chairman, ay yung tinatawag po natin kung ano yung taripa na ginamit po ng NGCP. Okay. So, there ay na-compute po ng consultant ng ERC yung sinasabi po nilang closing RAB, kung ano po yung tamang computation ng kanilang total asset. Kasama na po depreciation and everything. Now, ang sabi po nila ng RAAC at NCL, ang kanilang closing RAB for the third regulatory period is 173 billion. And sa application po ng NGCP, ang kanilang application is 196 billion para po sa kanilang tinatawag na opening RAB doon po sa fourth regulatory period. That is exactly 196.69 billion na nakalagay po doon sa kanilang draft final determination. And kanina nga po ay nagkakaroon ng tanungan sila Congressman Rupus and also sa ERC kung bakit daw itong ating pong tinatawag na draft final determination ay naka-out doon po sa kanilang website for the consumption ng ating pong mga consumer. Kasi nga ang desisyon ng mga korte, no, ay bawal yung ginagawang paglalabas, no, ng ng partial decision, no? But I would like to be educated on this, Ms. Mona Dimalanta, no? What was the reason? Bakit nilabas nyo yung partial initial determination noong September 13, 2023, at nilabas nyo naman yung draft final determination noong August 21, 2024. What is the very main reason why na inilabas natin to? Kasi kung ako ang tatanungin mo, better sa akin na nilabas to. Why? Kasi nakita ko yung difference nung dalawa nito. Disadvantages talaga sa ating mga consumers. Sobra. And as a matter of fact, kung babasahin mo itong final na to, yung final determination, lumalabas dito that even the consumers hindi kasama doon sa ginawang hearing ng what you call this, ng ERC. Because as I have read this, wala po doon yung mga consumer group. Ang nandun lamang po ay ang NGCP lawyer na si Faustino something ba yun, I forgot, Bautista, at yung NGCP, and then the PISAM and the Transco. But never na naandun po yung ating pong mga consumer. Now, what is the very essence why this draft final determination was released in your website?
Mr. Chair, the rule that requires publication of draft determinations has been there from the original rules of ERC setting the transmission wheeling rates. I think personal na po ito. It really it is a commitment, not just an attempt on the part of the Commission to adhere to principles of transparency in setting the rates, particularly of regulated entities. This time around po, baka po ang sinasabi nilang nag-iba, kasi po merong draft partial kami, tapos draft final na pinost. Kasi po, nabanggit na rin kanina, instead po of the original 5-year period, naging 7 po. Kasi po, hindi nga po nakapag-reset yung ERC dati. So, to address po the question directly, it is in adherence to the principles of transparency and giving our public the ability to comment on the drafts, on the rates that will result from this exercise of the ERC. Maka-comment lang po ako dun sa punto about consumers, Mr.
Sige,
Chair.
go ahead, ma'am.
Opo. Bukas naman po yung proseso sa consumer. Siguro po, tine-check ko lang nga po kung wala kaming intervenor na consumer group. But there were consumer individuals that submitted comments and participated as intervenors in the proceedings.
Okay.
Meron pong si former Commissioner Non participated. There was NASECOR, who's also a consumer group that were admitted as intervenors.
Okay, dito sa nirelease nyo sa inyong website, ang sinasabi po dito, ang opening ROB is 173.41 billion in accordance doon sa inassess ng ating pong RAAC saka NCL. But dito po sa naging final and drop ninyo, lumalabas po ng 196.69 billion, a difference of 23 billion. Ang pinag-uusapan pa lang natin dito, opening and closing ROB. So in other words, mataas po ang closing and opening ROB ng 23 billion. So in other words, tataas ang presyo ng rate para sa transmission. Dahil mataas po yung opening ROB. Ngayon, ang tanong ko, siguro hindi sa'yo, doon sa ating pong mga majority, no? Sa majority, kay Commissioner Puentes, anong reason bakit nyo itinaas yung pong closing and opening ROB na kung saan kinompute po ito ng ating RAAC at ng ating pong NCL na kung saan binayaran natin ng 40 million at 12 million para sa ginagawa po nilang evaluation and assessment ng lahat ng mga properties ng ating pong NGCP, bakit itinaas natin ng 23 billion?
Mr. Chair, may I be recognized?
That's addressed to whom?
Commissioner Puentes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, Mr. Chair, when we issued the PID, there was already a reservation.
Can you speak louder, please?
There was already a reservation noted in the PID that the beginning balance that used and recommended by the RAAC is that I do not agree on that because of there was a decision made by the previous commission on the beginning of 2010 regulatory period, there was already an approved beginning balance, and that was used to roll forward the regulatory asset base to become the opening RAB on the fourth RP.
Ang
So
sinasabi mo,
it's-
Commissioner, ay forecasting sa 2009. Kailangan yung forecast ang gagamitin natin.
No, Mr. Chair,
Oo.
ang nangyari po, meron pong approved opening RAB in the third RP. So that was used to roll forward to the opening RAB. It was used to close.
What was the approved opening RAB? Or closing, ano yan, opening or closing RAB?
Opening RAB.
Ng,
Actually,
ng third regulatory period?
yes, because the RAAC used the SKM valuation, the 2008, but there was an approved opening RAB in the third regulatory period. And it is already,
No, wait,
if I may,
wait.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioners Puentes, we are talking about third regulatory period closing RAB. I'm not talking about the opening RAB of the 2011 to 2015 opening RAB. I'm talking about the closing. So, para maintindihan ng ating mga kababayan, ang pinag-uusapan natin dito, yung buong asset. Kasi yung sinasabi mong opening, nanggaling yun doon sa second regulatory period eh. Yun ang ginamit natin na parang opening ng third regulatory period. Now, matapos ang 5 taon, matatapos sa 2015, closing RAB na tayo. So, andun na po yung depreciation, andun na yung mga bagong equipments, andun na yung mga bagong projects. Now, ngayon, meron na tayong closing RAB. Ito na yung pinakakumpletong asset ng ating pong NGCP na magiging move forward tayo sa 2016. Yun ang gagamitin natin sa opening ng fourth regulatory period. Ngayon, ang tinatanong ko sa iyo, bakit nyo itinaas ng 23 billion, okay, yung pong closing RAB ng third regulatory period at ginawa nyo 196 billion? Kasi yun ang nag-manifest dito sa inyong decision eh. Dito sa inyong partial initial determination, ang sabi nyo, Commissioner, ikaw, si Digal, at si Lumbatan, ang sabi nyo, tama ang decision ng RAAC. Dapat, ang gamitin po natin sa computation, yung mga project na use and useful. Sinabi nyo dito eh, ang kailangan gamitin natin mga project sa computation ng ating opening RAB para sa fourth regulatory period ay use and useful, efficient ng mga project. Yun ang sinabi nyo dito. Then, suddenly, dito sa decision nyo, sa final determination, sinabi nyo, hindi, as spent, lahat ng project ng NGCP, no, lahat ng kanilang mga capex, hindi pa tapos, pabayaran na natin sa taong bayan. Ito ang binabanggit ng desisyon ninyo. Ang tanong ko, bakit?
Mr. Chair, if I may, in the draft final determination, section 4.2.3, it was stated on how we adopted for this purpose the draft final determination. Why we adopted the 196 because of the use. If I may explain, there was an opening RAB in the third regulatory period. So that opening RAB came from the closing RAB of the second regulatory period. And now, the consultant used the 2008, wherein it was not even the closing RAB of the second regulatory period. Furthermore, there was an approved opening RAB for the third regulatory period in the final determination of the third regulatory period. So this figure was used to roll forward the assets in the third regulatory period that resulted to the closing RAB of the third regulatory period and to become the opening RAB of the
Commissioner.
fourth regulatory
How much
period.
is that?
Commissioner
Come on.
Puentes,
Come on.
wait, please, I have still the floor. Please, Commissioner Puentes, huwag mo akong paikot-ikutin. Okay.
I'm
Alam
sorry
mo,
about
ang
that,
tinatanong
Mr.
ko is closing, not the opening.
Yes.
Hindi na makaka-apekto yung opening mo doon sa closing eh. Kasi ang closing, ito na yung total eh, ng asset eh. Ito na yun eh. So, nag-evaluate ang RAAC at ang NCL. Ang sabi nila, 173 billion. Bakit tayo magbabayad ng 40 million saka 12 million? Tapos hindi natin sila pakikinggan. Saka, eto, Commissioner Puentes, Commissioner Digal, Commissioner Lumbatan. Meron tayong actual and historical data and information. Ibig sabihin, tapos na kasi ang 2016 hanggang 2022 na kinoconsider natin sa fourth regulatory period. Tapos na eh. So, nag-apply ang NGCP. O, ito na mga datos namin. Ito na yung mga project namin. Ito na yung CAPEX namin. Ito na yung OPEX namin. Ito na yung taxes namin. Ito na yung depreciation namin. Kumpleto. Kukomputin na lang nila. Ang sabi nila, at ang sabi ng NCL, saka ng RAAC, 173 billion. Now, ang tanong, bakit ginawang 196? Yung dun sa final determination. Okay? We're just talking about the opening and closing RAB. We're not talking about yet the CAPEX. Ha? Sa CAPEX, ang laki ng application nila na pinaboran yung tatlo. Bakit? Unahin natin yung opening RAB. Bakit nag-jump ng 23 billion? Give me justifiable reason. Why? Samantalang yon ang recommendation ng RAAC. Yon ang recommendation ng NCL.
Mr. Chair, may I?
Please reply.
I will try again on the opening RAB portion.
Mr. Chairman, don't try to confuse this committee. Because ang parang, nanggaya yung sa 2000, sa second regulatory yung opening. Okay yun. Tapos na yun eh. Ito na yung computation eh. Nagsimula kayo sa 2011. Ito ang asset ng NGCP. Okay, nagpagawa sila ng mga project. Oh, eto na. Nag-close na tayo. Magko-close na tayo sa asset natin. Ito yung asset natin. At sa computation nila, sinabi nila 173. And even the two, Commissioner Maceda and Mona Lisa, agreed with the consultant. And the three of you agreed also dito sa partial initial determination. Pero binago nyo pagdating sa final. Ngayon, ang tanong, kung di mo masagot, Commissioner Digal, pakita natin yung ating yung final determination para dun sa proposal ng NGCP para sa kanilang CAPEX. Phase 1, yung phase 1. Yan, sige. Medyo zoom lang natin. So mga kasama, ito yung NGCP proposal na submitted nila sa ERC. Yan po yung tinatawag na, pakisum pa ng konti. Unahin muna natin sa itaas. So yan ang tinatawag nating annual revenue requirement. Yan po nagde-determine kung yan lahat ng computation yan, bilyon yan. Ang katumbas po na yan, nababayaran po natin is 1 peso o minsan 0.90 cents per kilowatt hour. Lahat ng pinag-uusapan natin, bilyong piso na yan. Ang katumbas lang po niyan, piso o minsan 90 cents pa. Ngayon, ayan po ang proposal nila. Ang proposal po ng NGCP, which the three of you adopted, 35 billion sa 2016. Ang kanila pong return on capital. Yan po kasama na dyan yung kanilang CAPEX. Sa 2017, 36. Sa 2018, 38. Sa 2019, 41. Tandaan ninyo, ito po ay historical. Ito po ay nangyari na. Ito po ay i-compute na lang ng inyong consultant na binayaran ninyo ng 40 million at 12 million. Tapos hindi nyo susundin. Ngayon, ayan po ang kanilang tinatawag na CAPEX, 196 billion. Ang proposal ng NGCP. Dahil yan po yung mga project na hindi pa naman po sa efficient, hindi pa naman sa useful, nakakarga na. So nga, andito po yung desisyon ng RAAC. Baba mo ng konti. Ang sabi ng RAAC, sa kanilang computation at assessment, dahil binayaran sila ng 40 million at 12 million, 99 billion lang. Yung proposal nila ng 2016 na 35, ang sabi ng RAAC, 19 lang yan. Noong 2017, sabi ng NGCP, 36.3 yan. Ang sabi ng RAAC, hindi, 19.6. And so forth and so forth. 196 compared to 99. Doon po sa return of capital, kung titignan po ninyo, dyan na po nakasama yung mga depreciation, saka yung mga weighted average of capital. Ang sabi ng NGCP, noong 2016, 7.4 billion kami. Ang sabi ng RAAC, saka ng ERC approved, ayan, makikita po natin doon sa kanilang return of capital na sinabi ng ERC, 7.8. So in other words, Mr. Chairman, kung titignan mo ang lahat-lahat ng asset na pinopropose ng NGCP, 387 billion ang proposal po nila para sa 2016 hanggang 2020. Yan po yung kanilang sinubmit sa ERC. Ang sabi ng RAAC, 183 billion lamang ang ating pong regulated asset base. Ngayon, ang tanong, again, sa inyong tatlo, dahil yung dalawa nag-dissent at sinabi nilang, hindi, dapat 183 lang tayo. Bakit nyo pinayaagan na lumampas ang ating regulatory asset base nang umaabot ng 204 billion? Dahil yung 204 billion na yan, ikakarga yan sa taong bayan. At ano ang sinasabi ng EPIRA? Sabi niya, Section 34F, in determining the rate base, the Transco or any distribution utility shall not be allowed to include management inefficiencies like cost of project delays. Dito sa 387 billion, pinagsama-sama lahat ng project dyan. Hindi pa tapos, pinasisingil nyo na sa taong bayan. Ang sabi ng RAAC, NCL, hindi pa pwede. 183 lang. Now, your approval of this draft final determination is not in accordance with the EPIRA law. Sinasabi, huwag niyo isama eh. Bakit pumirma kayo? Well, the reason why I'm questioning this because this entails yung ating pong pagbabayad ng ating mga kababayan. Naiintindihan po ba ninyo? Ang repercussion nito? Tataas tayo ng 13 to 14 cents per kilowatt hour. At hindi natin marirefund yung sisingilin nila sa atin. Kung sakasakali na 183.4 billion ang gagamitin ninyo, makaka-refund tayo ng almost 95 to 100 billion. Nasaan ang ano nyo? Nasaan ang puso nyo dito? Nung kayo pumunta sa aking opisina, isa lamang ang biniling ko sa inyo. Andun kayo lahat. Kasama si Chairman Mona Lisa, kasama si Catherine Maceda. Ano sabi ko sa inyo? Di ba sabi ko sa inyo? Hahabulin kayo ng pagkakataon. Gamitin nyo yung tama, gawin nyo yung tama. Kasi taong bayan ang sisingilin natin ng sobra na sinasabi ng EPIRA, hindi bebede. Kailangan just and reasonable rate for the consumers. Now, please, explain. Kasi naniniwala ako, doon sa last hearing na sinabi ni Chairman Mona Lisa, magkakaroon pa kayo ng, I don't know, is it a final decision? Can you kindly explain to me? Kasi ako, sa ngayon, kapag yan ang ginawa ninyo, pinasingil nyo yung 204 billion sa CAPEX at yung 23 billion para doon sa opening RAB, magkakaproblema kayo. Ako mismo, magpapile na rin talaga ako ng kaso against you. Ma'am, can you kindly explain?
The process for requires,
Chairman Lisa, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, the process requires that after the public consultation, which was already concluded, our staff evaluated the comments and now it's up to the final evaluation po of the commission. Whether we approve this, we uphold this, we make adjustments based on the comments received from all the stakeholders. So may meeting pa po kami about this.
So may chance pa. So bakit kayo pumirma ditong tatlo? Binasa nyo ba to? Commissioner Digal?
Yes, if I may.
Yes, go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair, Your Honor. I believe the slide that you showed earlier was pertaining to a partial initial determination.
Tama.
So that's provided po under the rules that we issued that. It's akin to what we call a provisional approval. We all do that for all cases po. It's not unique for NGCP.
But, Commissioner, in the draft final determination, kung ano yung pinirmahan nyo doon, binawi nyo dito. At dito, sinasabi nyo, yung mga proyekto na sobra, 204 billion na ikakagawa sa tao, i-consider nyo as spent. At yun ang recommendation sa inyo ng NGCP. Am I correct? Application nila yan. Balik nyo yung ano. That's the application of NGCP.
Mr. Chair, Your Honor, if I may be allowed,
Yeah, sige, go ahead.
a variance between a partial initial determination or a PA up to between the PA and the final authority, hindi naman po yan unique dito sa kaso na to. We have given provisional approvals din po sa ibang application, pero pagdating po ng final, iba po yon. And
Commissioner, variance, ha? You're talking about variance? A
Apo.
variance of 204 billion and a variance of 222 billion? Are you kidding me?
Hindi po yan unique na nangyayari. Pwede lang pong iba yung amount, pero nangyayari po na iba yung provisional approval sa final po.
Alam mo, Commissioner, huwag mo akong paikutin. Sige. Page 2. Page 2. Ayan. Sa page 2, makikita mo dyan yung application. Application kasi ng NGCP to, in-apply eh. At lahat ng in-apply ng NGCP, inaprubahan po ninyo. Nung una, inaprubahan ninyo, tapos nung huli, dalawa na lang yung natira sa inyo. Anyway, like example, dito sa page 3 pala, page 3. Gusto ko lang malaman na kung what have you done dito sa page 3. Yan, katulad sa public relation and corporate social responsibility. Yung kanilang public relation and representation, nag-equate to ng almost 2.5 billion. Yung sa kanilang representation and entertainment, 800 million. Inaprubahan nyo ba to? Kayo nagkaroon ng proposal ng 387. Doon muna tayo sa CAPEX. Bakit ang CAPEX niyo po
1 minute.
Ha? Bakit po 196 billion po yung inyong pinropose na hindi pa naman po siya tapos, pinopropose niyo po? Attorney, ba't po kayo nagpropose ng 196 billion na CAPEX na kung saan ay kasama po dito ang iba't ibang mga proyekto ng 2016 to 2020 na hindi pa po tapos ay gusto niyo nang pabayaran sa taong bayan?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Doon po sa, may nasasabi lang po kasi kanina, na lahat po ng in-apply namin, approved by ERC kaagad. Hindi po lahat. In fact, I'm asking our finance to check. Kasi meron pa po kaming malalaking projects po, Congressman. 11 projects, hindi nila sinama. And secondly, doon po sa...
Attorney,
okay, yeah, okay.
ang tinatanong ko po sa inyo, sa 196 billion, sabi ng RAAC saka NCL, ang approval lang po nila doon sa CAPEX is 99 billion, hindi po 196, katulad ng in-apply po ninyo. Bakit po ang in-apply nyo ay lahat ng hindi tapos ay sisingilin sa taong bayan? Yun po tinatanong ko eh. Kasi yung application nyo nakalagay sa dokumento na sinubmit po ninyo.
Okay.
So 196 po yung apply nyo na hindi tapos, sisingilin natin sa taong bayan. Kaya nga, sobra po eh. Ang tanong ko nga po sa inyo, bakit po kayo nag-apply ng mga proyektong hindi tapos ay kailangang bayaran na ng taong bayan? Yun ang tanong ko po.
Okay po. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, may I answer that? Yung, kasi po yung second regulatory period, yung third regulatory period, as spent po yung process na in-apply. So, we applied on the basis of that because even when we came in, even during transco time, ang nakita po namin is as spent yung inaalaw na methodology. From the perspective po of the investor, Kaya yun din ang those are the rules po eh. Yun ang rules ng ERC. So doon po namin in-apply yun.
Okay.
From can I continue po?
Nakuha ko na po yung sagot niya.
Okay.
So ang sinasabi niyo po, dahil ito po ang rules nung second regulatory and third regulatory period na sinasabi, pwede yun eh. Pwede na yung mga hindi pa tapos, ikarga na natin sa taong bayan. Sabi, pwede. But in the fourth regulatory period, I'm pretty sure you are aware. Aware po kayo na may rules ang fourth regulatory period.
Opo.
According sa Article 4, hindi po allow. And if I may read, attorney, ito sinasabi, ERC will evaluate the actual expenditure of the regulated entity for the fourth regulatory period by examining its necessity and efficiency to ensure its consistency with the principles and provision of these rules in determining the annual revenue requirement. So ngayon, ang tanong ko sa iyo, attorney, yung bang hindi tapos is efficient and necessity?
Ang tingin po namin
Hindi,
opo.
ang tanong ko po, attorney, yung hindi tapos na proyektong isinabmit nyo po sa inyong application, yung po ba ay efficient na?
Kailangan po namin, necessary po yan. Necessary po
Hindi
yung
pa nga
project.
po siya tapos, paano siya naging necessary? Eh kung hindi nyo matapos, binayaran na ng tao yan eh. So, ang tanong po dito, Mr. Attorney Sagayo, hindi pa po siya efficient eh. Hindi pa siya useful. Hindi pa siya commissioned eh. Why do you have to charge the consumer?
Mr. Chairman,
Isipin nyo, Attorney Sagayo, you're charging us sa opening RAB 23 billion exceed. Sa CAPEX, 204 billion ang charge nyo sa taong bayan. Ang tanong ko, bakit? Ang inalaw lang po sa inyo ng RAAC saka NCL para sa inyong CAPEX, alam niyo kailan? 13.3 billion kasi yun ang tapos nung 2016 to 2020. Pero sa application nyo, 179 billion ang sinisingil nyo po sa taong bayan. So ngayon, ang tanong ko po, attorney, ang rules sinasabi, hindi pwede. Ba't kayo nag-apply?
No, Mr. Chairman, if I, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chairman, but even in the rules, fourth regulatory period, it's suspend.
Mr. Chairman,
May I ask from the Chairman, as it's suspend, it's...
Ito na nga po, binasa ko na sa inyo, attorney. Hindi nyo ba nadinig? Ang sabi ko, Article 4, under the rules of the Commission for setting the transmission rates, provide, kukumpletuhin ko po, other than the setting of transmission rates for the subsequent regulatory periods, this article shall govern the setting of transmission rates for the fourth regulatory period, covering the period from January 1, 2016 to December 31, 2022. ERC, again, will evaluate the actual expenditure of the regulated entity for the fourth regulatory period by examining the efficiency of the projects to ensure its consistency with the principles of the provision of these rules that was approved by the ERC. Yun ang sinasabi ko po. In the first place, dapat hindi po kayo nag-apply ng gano'n dahil may rules ang ERC at sinasabi nila, oh, hindi pa pwede itong itong hindi tapos And these three commissioners agreed with you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, insofar as those rules actually are concerned, we have a pending petition with the Supreme Court questioning the validity of the rules set by the Energy
Bakit
Regulatory
niyo po
Commission.
kino-question ang validity? Dahil gusto niyong ipakarga sa taong bayan. Yung
Hindi po.
ano pong reason bakit niyo po kino-question ang validity ng rules ng
Mr.
ERC?
Okay.
Article 4. Are we talking about Article 4?
Correct,
The rules
Mr.
of
Chairman.
the transmission
Correct.
billing rates?
Correct, Mr. Chairman.
What is your reason behind why you are questioning yung mga proyekto na hindi pa po tapos ay ikakarga na sa taong bayan?
Mr. Chairman, under the IPIRA, it is clearly stated that the rate-setting methodology should be internationally accepted. And it is mentioned there, RORB.
What provision?
Under the
I will state you a provision that states otherwise. EPIRA, Section 34F, that in determining the rate base, the Transco or any distribution utility shall not be allowed to include management inefficiencies like cost of project delays. Aliwanag, 34F. Tingnan mo. Ang sabi, hindi pwede na ang transmission utility ikakarga yung mga management inefficiencies like mga project delays. Oh, delay yung mga project nyo, hindi pa tapos eh. Kinakarga nyo na sa amin eh. Bakit?
Mr. Chairman, I agree. For delays attributable to us, I agree with that. But for delays not attributable to us, I beg to differ. Most especially, for example, narinig ko po kanina, Mr. Chairman, yung MVIP. Ang sabi po, delayed po kami dyan. May I ask ERC, paulit-ulit kanina po yung MVIP na delayed kami. And it was one of the cases na na-charge kami ng project delay. May I ask the Honorable ERC if we were penalized insofar as MVP is concerned?
Attorney Sagaya, no?
Attorney,
Kasi medyo...
the time is still with the Honorable Dan Fernandez. One more minute.
So we will
have
have Attorney
to...
Sagaya. Para
Okay,
tayo...
so the question, we will ask the
Yes.
questions later
Para
on.
tayo magkaintindihan. Attorney
1
Sagaya,
minute.
it's like this, Attorney Paul. Okay, wala namang pong problema yan eh. Kung yung mga proyektong yan talagang kailangan ng ating pong transmission facilities, walang problema. Ibig sabihin, tapusin nyo lang muna. Tapos saka po natin ikarga sa taong bayan. Kasi kung hindi po tapos, kasi may rules ang ERC eh, sinasabi nila, pag hindi tapos, huwag nyo ikarga.
Okay.
Di ba?
Opo.
Oh, kasi sinabi po ng EPIRA eh. At yung pong EPIRA na gumawa, kumbaga, siya yung ating mother law na lahat ay ating sinusunod, eh in violation tayo. And even these commissioners who have signed the draft final determination, they are in fault. Why? Because pinayagan nila yun sa inyo eh. Na over 204 billion. Di mo ba?
Oh.
So we can agree on this, Attorney Paul Sagaya, na sana po, sana. I don't know, but you have to decide the ERC. Hindi naman po tayo makakapagkaroon ng finality. I know that you will be defending your reasoning, but that is kung titignan mo ang sinasabi ng batas, hindi po tayo umaayon sa sinasabi ng 34F. At yun po sinasabi ko sa inyo, dahil ang sinasabi po, hindi po pwedeng ikarga yung mga project na delay. So, Mr. Chairman, I want to dwell with another issue, no? Para at least nabigyan lang po tayo ng...
Last question, Terjan.
Hindi, paano magiging last question to?
Opo, meron na kayong 5 minutes kasi take over lang kayo sa oras.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
Mr. Chairman, so
we will have to, I'll ask you one more question, then we will have
Mr. Chairman, siguro mamaya lang po uli para at least tuloy-tuloy po
Okay.
ng aking pong momento. Maraming salamat, Mr.
Thank you
Chairman.
very much.
Again, sir. Mga Mona Lisa, sana po sa susunod na hearing po, kasi naman, sana po tapos na po. And also the weighted average cost of capital, kung ano po talaga yung tama. At at the same time, yung pong mga commissioners, you still have the chance para baguhin po yung 204 billion na sobra at yung 23 billion na opening RAB for the fourth regulatory period. Sana po baguhin po natin. Otherwise, hindi po ako nakikialam sa desisyon nyo. Kung ang desisyon nyo po ganun pa rin, so be it. So be it. But I'm telling you, alam na po ng taong bayan kung ano nangyayari. At hindi po kami papayag na sobra ang gagawin sa paniningil ng NGCP. Maraming po salamat, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Honorable Dan Fernandez. We now proceed to the next interpolator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everyone. Just a few questions, Mr. Chair, sa NGCP. Sino kaya makakasagot? Attorney Sagayo, probably. Sir, magandang gabi po sa inyo.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening, sir.
evening,
Just
honorable
gusto ko lang balikan yung mga konti na pag-usapan sa last hearing. On paper, ang NGCP po ay nagmamayari 60% Filipinos and 40% owned by Chinese citizens. Tama po ba yun, sir?
Tama po.
Ang purpose po ng requirement na ito na itinalaga ng ating batas ay para masiguro na Filipino ang in control ng NGCP. Tama po ba?
Tama po.
Oh, ito pong 40% na ito, yung nagmamayari, please correct me, sir, if my statements are, yung State Grid International Development Limited, o SGID, ito po ba yung 40%? Attorney
State
Sagayo?
Grid Corporation of China po. Opo.
Tama po. Yung SGID naman po ay isang subsidiary ng state-owned State Grid Corporation ng China. Tama po ba yun?
Tama po.
In other words, yung gobyerno ng China ang nagmamayari ng 40% ng NGCP which controls the Philippine National Power Grid. Tama po, sir?
Can you please repeat the question, Ms.
In other words, yung gobyerno po ng China ang nagmamayari ng 40% ng NGCP.
Parang state-owned po yan, Mr. Chairman. Parang sa atin po, parang
Yes,
government-owned or
Opo,
controlled
kaya ko po
corporation.
tinanong yung nauna eh.
Okay.
Pero, so tama po.
Tama po.
So ito po ang gobyerno ng China na at present meron po tayong territorial dispute. Tama po?
Tama po, Mr. Chairman.
Doon sa West Philippine Sea. Kasi Attorney Sagayo po, sir, no?
Yes po.
I heard that you're also one of the directors of NGCP.
Opo.
Gano'n na po kayo katagal sa NGCP, sir?
Since 2010, magkasama po kami ni Mr. C.
2010.
2010.
So, kailan po ba pumasok yung NGCP? 2009 po ba?
09. Ang operations, the incorporation of NGCP is February of 2008.
So, isa po pala kayo sa mga original na nandiyan dyan na?
Hindi po. Kami po yung bumili sa shares ni Mr. Rason.
Okay po.
Opo.
Yeah. Pero matagal na po kayo dyan. So, isang dekada na, mahigit po, no?
Opo.
Base po sa isinumiti na General Information Sheet, ang chairman of the board ng NGCP po pasensya po, medyo nahihirapan akong basahin eh. Zhu Guan Chao. Tama po ba yung pronunciation ko?
Tama po, Mr. Chairman.
Na isang Chinese national na taga Beijing, China.
Tama po.
Tama po. Ang ibig sabihin po nito na kahit 40% owner lang ang mga Chinese ng NGCP, siya po ang naitalagang chairman. Tama po, sir?
Chairman. Opo.
So kayo po, bumoto rin po kayo. Kasama po ba kayo sa mga bumoto at pagpili ng chairman ng NGCP?
As a member of the board, yes po.
Kaibigan niyo po ba tong si Zhu Guangzhou? On a personal capacity, sir?
Siguro po what I can say is kakilala po. Because I seldom see him. He's only here during board meetings.
Okay po.
Opo.
Ako lang po, medyo nababagabag. Hindi niyo naman po siya personal na kaibigan. Binoto niyo po siya bilang chairman. Pinili niyo po siya.
Opo.
Bakit po kaya? Bakit po siya ang pinili ninyo?
Kasi po sa the way, lahat po kasi ng executive officers ng NGCP, President, Chief Technical Officer, Chief Financial Officer, Corporate Secretary, Assistant Corporate Secretary, HR, lahat po yan Filipino. Ang mga Vice Chairman po ng board, Filipino
sorry
din
to
po.
cut you, sir.
Sure.
Limited time lang po kasi
Opo.
tayo. I hope that you could just answer the question. Ano po yung reason kung bakit pinili niyo po si Mr. Zhu Guangzhou Chao as bilang yung chairman po ninyo?
Kasi nga po yun, lahat po ng positions ng NGCP, puro Filipino ang nandyan. So we deemed it, anyway, ang chairman naman ng board, nagpre-preside lang naman during meetings.
Sir, I'm sorry, with all due respect, sir.
Opo.
Yung lang po, we're just talking here. You
Opo,
don't have to
opo.
be over-defensive of the question. I'm just asking, gusto ko lang makuha yung thoughts nyo bilang one of the directors ba, na since binoto nyo yung isang Chinese national to be the chairman of NGCP, I'm trying to comprehend Ano po kaya yung personal reason ninyo? Other than yung binabanggit nyo na superficial, bakit po siya ang pinili ninyo bilang chairman ng NGCP?
Personally po, Mr. Chairman, yan lang po ang rason on my part. Na
Dahil
considering-
parang gusto nyo siyang pagbigyan, dahil yung iba Pilipino na, yung chairman ibigay naman natin sa mga Chinese. Yun po ba yun?
Kasi anyway naman po, ano po, number one, hindi naman po illegal.
Yeah, no, sir, don't be...
yeah.
Sa akin lang, sir, no, with all due respect again,
Opo,
sir,
opo.
you don't have to be over-defensive. I'm not saying that there's something illegal or may kamalian. I'm just trying to ask.
Correct.
Na sa inyo po, ako kasi pag bumoboto ko, pinag-iisipan ko eh. O yung simpleng sidecar driver doon sa amin sa Tondo, pag bumoboto, tinitignan niya yung pagkatao ng tao. Bakit ko po binoboto? Ganun din po siguro sa isang kumpanya. O pag binoboto ko to, hindi naman siguro dahil puro Pilipino na, ibigay naman natin sa Chinese yung chairman. Gusto ko lang pong makita without over-defending, sir, na wala namang illegal. No one here. Ako na po una, hindi ko naman sinasabi na illegal. Tinatanong ko lang po, with all due respect, Attorney Sagayo, bakit po ninyo binoboto ang isang Chinese national to be chairman in your own decision nyo po? Bakit po kaya siya ang pinili ninyo? Ano po ba?
Sa akin, frankly po talaga, Mr. Chairman, yan lang po eh. I mean, at saka minority shareholder po sila, partner po sila. So, since nagpre-preside lang naman ng meeting, during board meetings, kahit paano naman as minority shareholder, baka okay lang na. I mean, may right din naman sila to become also an officer.
No, sure. Yeah. Sir. So, just take your answer for what it is, sir. Ako lang kasi, iniisip ko, baka may rason talaga na deeper than that. No? So, yun lang. Gusto nyo lang pagbigyan yung mga Chinese na ibigay na natin yung pagiging chairman doon sa Chinese dahil yung iba Pilipino naman. Yun po ang rason ninyo. Tama po ba, sir? Is that right, sir?
Kasi may right din po sila as minority shareholder nga po. So, at saka yung function lang po nila is really just to preside. So, we do not see anything wrong na ibigay din naman sa kanila considering that all positions in NGC po are occupied by Filipino citizens.
Yeah, sir, wala naman sinasabing illegal or wrong. But I will just take your answer for what it is with all due respect. Sino-sino po ang mga Chinese nationals na nasa management ng NGCP, sir?
Wala po, Mr. Chairman. Wala po.
Wala po kahit isa?
Wala po, Mr. Chairman.
So kung wala po, sino po ba itong nakita ko po dito sa General Information Sheet? Pasensya na po ulit, medyo mahirap banggitin. Si Lee Sin Chua? Ang pangalan po niya ay Liu Sin Hua.
Luis Sinhua, Mr. Chairman.
Sino
Director.
po siya? Director po. Ano po
Opo.
ang function siya sa NGCP?
Director po, Mr. Chairman, ng NGCP.
Yun lang po.
Opo. And Chairman of the Board Audit Committee.
Chairman of the Board of Audit Committee.
Opo.
Paano po siya naging chairman of the board ng Audit Committee? Binoto rin po siya?
Yeah, he was selected also.
Sino po namili?
Ng Board Audit Committee din po. At saka board ng NGCP.
So hindi lang po yung chairman ang Chinese na nakaupo?
Hindi lang, plus the Board Audit Committee.
Pangalawa po to na Chinese.
Opo.
Sino naman po si Liu Xiao? Pasensya na po, parang puro Chinese. Yung dila ko, hindi pang Chinese talaga. Mr. Chair, Liu Xiao.
I do not know
Hindi niyo po siya kilala?
No.
Hindi po. Sino po si Wenbo?
Wenbo, I think you're referring to old directors who left already the company.
Yeah, just tell me, sir. So,
Wenbo
is...
used to be a director of NGCP po.
Kailan po siya umalis?
2015.
Used to be?
A director po.
Ano pong function niya other than being a director?
There was a time po that he was the chief technical officer of NGCP.
Sir, yung mga Chinese na kasama namin ay na sa NGCP ngayon, I'm assuming that they applied and were granted an alien employment permit by the Department of Labor and Employment. Tama po ba?
Lahat po ng Chinese na nasa amin po ngayon have all the appropriate visas issued
And they
by
were
the Philippine
given that
government.
position dahil wala pong Pilipino na makagagawa ng kanilang tungkulin.
You're referring to CTO ngayon as we speak
Yung
now po?
mga Chinese po na nasa inyo po ngayon.
Yung mga Chinese po ngayon na nasa amin po, walang nag-o-occupy ng executive positions or managerial positions. They are just members of the board.
So wala na po tayo sa technical
Wala po,
management
wala po,
or anything.
wala po.
Yes, the reason why I asked the question, Your Honor, dahil under Section 40 of our Labor Code, the employment permit that is issued for non-residents and aliens to be applicant employer at the determination of non-availability of a person in the Philippines who is competent, able, and willing at the time of application to perform the services which an alien is desired. Yung meaning ko po, yung mga dapat ma-pass on na technical aspects ng Chinese sa atin, dapat maipasa na sa mga Pilipino. Tama po ba?
Opo, opo.
So it is your stand, sir, na wala naman talagang authority, control, or anything of vital position ang mga Chinese national sa NGCP?
Wala po, wala po.
Just a short manifestation, Mr. Chair, ang pamamahala po ng power grids ng ng ating bansa ay partially nationalized industry. In other words, Pilipino ang kailangan may control dito. Kung gano'n naman po pala, bakit pa may mga Chinese dito sa NGCP? Otherwise, nakakabahala po ito sa ating national security. Sa akin lamang pong pananaw, kung papayagan po ng ating batas, ang 40% nito ay pwede ring foreigners and case and Chinese nationals. Dapat nating siguraduhin ng pagpapatakbo nito ay eksklusibong nasa mga Pilipino. Like what you said, sir, there is no one-hit switch button na pwedeng patayin. Yun ang naririnig ko since last hearing eh. Tama po ba from NGCP?
Wala po yan. Wala po. Fake news po yan.
Fake news. But how are you certain, sir? Attorney Matibag already said earlier na may information sila that they do believe that it is possible to influence the system remotely. Ako lang po, as a Pilipino, nakakapagpaalala. I hope you understand my asking the questions dahil sa narinig ko kay Attorney Matibag. Sa akin lang, Attorney Sagayo, siguro hindi naman po masama na pakinggan ninyo at i-validate ninyo yung sinasabi ng kapwa Pilipino instead of simply refuting everything right off the bat. No, I think as Filipinos, we should all work together. Like I always said, sinabi ko sa nakarang hearing, Mr. Chair, wala pong magmamalasakit sa ating mga Pilipino, kundi tayo rin kapwa Pilipino. So I appeal NGCP. You know, naghihiring tayo dito, naglalabas tayo ng mga information. There are valid queries by the members. But sometimes ang naririnig namin sa inyo is over-defensive, na para bang tila bagang mali ang tanong ninyo. Ito ang dapat, wala pong illegal, lahat tama. Hindi porke walang illegal, ayos na sa national security natin. There are times and instances that the laws can be circumvented. We should not allow it as Filipinos, and our primordial concern is the sovereignty of our country. As Filipinos, we should be patriots. Sir, you said earlier na patriots kayo. O di kung may narinig kayong Pilipino na nagsasalita, with all due respect, sir, na may concern, let's validate it. Let's be sure. Kung may mamanipula sa grid natin, sasabihin ba naman sa inyo na hindi namin kaya o kaya namin? Natural, itatago ng ibang bansa. Because kung sabotage ang intention nila, they would not let us know, Filipinos. Itatago sa atin at gulpi-digulat ang aabutin nating mga Pilipino. O kaya I appeal to everyone, let's all work together. Attorney Matibag, ayan nagsasalita sila. Upuan natin, pakinggan nyo sila. Huwag yung parang Nasa kaliwa, nasa kanan. Nagsasabong tayo, pula sa puti. As Filipinos, iisa lang po ang kulay natin. Iisang bangkalan tayo sa Pilipinas. Pag lumubog ang bansa natin, sama-sama tayo. Oh, let's all work together and let's listen sa kapwa Pilipino natin. Again, Mr. Chair, thank you for the time. And if I may just emphasize, lagi ko pong sinasabi, tayong mga Pilipino, wala talagang tutulong at magmamalasakit sa atin, kundi tayo rin kapwa Pilipino. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
The Honorable Ernest Junicio of the 1st District of Manila. We now proceed. The Honorable Alonto.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A'udhu billahi minasyaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Magandang gabi po sa ating lahat at isang masayang Pasko sa ating pong lahat. Mr. Chair, I'd like to premise my questions on two grounds. First, Mr. Chair, I represent a community where it is well located within the operation of NGCP. I come from Lanao del Sur, 1st District, and as you know, NGCP is heavily invested and operated within my area. The generation, power generation, comes from the lake. I think more than 50% of the supply of power supply to Mindanao, and even as far as Visayas, comes from the hydroelectric power supply that we generate from Lake Lanao, which is right outside my doorstep. Literally, I was actually living just near the lake. Secondly, Mr. Chair, the issue on whether or not there seems to be a apprehension on the issue of national security. This has been widely and exhaustively discussed 10 years ago, Mr. Chair. The late Senator Miriam Defensor came out with a very strong statement and even described this as a national power virus, no, ang pagkasabi po niya. That was 10 years ago. She came out with the position. I think the discussion was the possibility of maybe amending the IPIRA law. And the late Senator Miriam Defensor warned us that in terms of our public utilities, we as legislators should be more circumspect and should be more wary about allowing other foreign countries. And she's not only talking about China alone. She was talking about opening up the possibility of entering and to extend giving powers to international companies to probably manipulate or influence how we would run the national grid, and especially if it talks about energy sector and energy industry. So, Mr. Chair, I was listening to several members of this committee, and basically the 50% or more than 50% of the discussion revolves around the issue of national security. And I do not question the patriotism of each and every single person in this room. If we talk about patriotism and nationalism, we are all nationalists and we are all patriotic to some degree. But this is about business and this is about profit. So the issue and the fear that we may hear from my members, and just to borrow some of the words that were said during the course of this inquiry committee hearing, there was a word that was used, yung speculation. To my understanding, it could border into paranoia. Mr. Chair, I don't see this as something that should stay away from or distance ourselves from. In fact, the Constitution recommends, to my understanding, encourages us to be, to embrace paranoia to some degree, to be speculative at some degree, to be apprehensive at some degree when issues and topics surround around the issue of national security. That is why, Mr. Chair, the Constitution, though we may enter into actively, the government or the state may enter into active business dealings with other foreign countries, it remains that the state should maintain ownership over our natural resources and national assets. That's how paranoid our Constitution is. That's how conservative our Constitution is. Now, that is how apprehensive our Constitution is. And the Constitution even maintains the power of the state. Those companies who are applying to do business using public utilities to exploit our natural resources to the House of Representatives and to some extent to Senate. That's why you have the NGCP now requesting or applying for your franchise, because it's a state power that maintains by the Constitution to the House of Representatives. That's why, Mr. Chair, this honorable committee is hearing the franchise of NGCP. That's how apprehensive, that's how paranoid, that's how conservative, and that's how speculative our Constitution. So when it comes to issue on national security, in fact, Mr. Chair, I'd like to state that we're talking here about power and energy. Constitution is very, very specific. Article 12, Section 2. It says, all natural resources, in particular, potential energy, are owned by the state, period. That's how the Constitution language the powers of the state to be maintained, this natural asset within the grasp of the state, Mr. Chair. So when it comes to speculation, I think that's the very, very basic why we are having this discussion, because all of us have our own speculations. And I myself, I would say, medyo paranoid po ako pagdating sa national security, Mr. Chair, because the Constitution wants us to embrace that attitude, because we will not be dealing with actual threat. We are also be warned about the potential threat. That's why we should not be reactive. We should always be proactive. That's what, I guess, the power of this honorable committee is. This is legislation at work. We should be proactive in trying to avoid any potential threat that may alarm us in the future, especially if it concerns about national security. Mr. Chair, having said that, I'd like to ask a few questions to NGCP. Because in order to address speculations again of a potential threat to our national security, perhaps I'd like to ask how NGCP able to acquire or able to at least subcontracts some of the projects and or services that you require for your company to be able to service the supply, transmission of electric power to our community. So I would like to ask Mr. Chair, NGCP Director, these are just simple questions po, Mr. Chair. Tama po ba na you procure services and goods sa mga ibang companies through a competitive bidding? Is that correct? If anyone from NGCP, my fraternity Brad, Attorney Ronald Concepcion just winked at me, Mr. Chair. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, may we allow Attorney Concepcion to respond to my question? Since he's a fraternity Brad, he could be as honest as he could be. So,
Attorney,
Mr. Chairman,
a Brad will never lie to a Brad.
we have,
Mr. Concepcion, you are a lawyer?
yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So, Attorney Ronald Concepcion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Procurement of goods and services in NGCP follows a very public and deliberative process. Public in the sense that we open the bids and we open the procurement to bidders, who have previously been accredited with us, who have the track record, the performance of which have been already evaluated by NGCP. And then the bids that have been qualified are to be determined or to be evaluated by what we call the accreditation, bid evaluation, and awards committee. This committee will now determine whom or which companies have the best offer to the corporation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Mr. Chair, may I direct? I know I don't want to be biased because this conversation between fraternity brad, I could be biased. So I would like to redirect my question to Attorney Sagayo, if you may, sir. Yes. My follow-up question. Thank you, Brad. So, meaning to say, jumping off from the response of Attorney Concepcion, Attorney Sagayo, so ibig sabihin po, yun ngayong may bids and procurement committee po kayo, tama ho ba?
Tama po, Mr. Chairman.
And I would assume that the bids and procurement committee is compliance with the stringent processes.
Definitely, Mr. Chairman. We go through we vet suppliers, we thoroughly vet contractors.
Yeah, because
we do, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Thank you po, Attorney, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, kasi kanina po nasabi po ni Brad, Attorney Ronald, and it's a good thing that you mentioned about yung background check, di ba? Because in bidding process, you do not only measure the capacity, the assets of the company to be able to deliver the services or the projects that you intend to award to that company, but you also do vetting processes in by way of checking the background of each of these companies. Is it correct?
We do.
And partly the reason why you are checking the background of each of this company, because you're opening up also the bidding, because you're talking about huge projects, di ba? So meaning to say, there's a possibility that local contractors or local companies may not qualify to these projects. That's why you're opening up and widen the scope for other foreign companies to also submit their application for a bids awards. Tama ho ba?
Tama po.
And the reason why you're also doing background checks, it's because part of your security of transmissions of asset, and this is I'd like to, Mr. Chair, point it out that according to the process by which NGCP evaluate and mitigate the possible awards, kasi you're talking about national security, ay nakalaan po dito yung security study ninyo, risk identification, risk mitigation measures, Mr. Chair, that would guide your bids and awards committee to do the vetting processes of each of the foreign companies that applies for this for the projects that you're about to deliver or you're about to award. Kasi it also speaks not only for internal organization processes of NGCP, but it also speaks about the national security concerns. Tama po ba?
Tama po, tama po.
Okay. So yung para dun sa mga suppliers and contractors po, no? Tama po ba yon?
Tama po, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Chair, I'd just like to invite the attention of everyone here, especially NGCP, since we're talking about a very stringent bids and awards committee that you open up to not only local companies but even foreign companies to be able to participate. I'd just like to, kasi in the last previous hearings, Mr. Chair, I believe there was a request by the committee to submit the list of all those companies that have already been awarded with certain contracts or certain projects. And I have here, Mr. Chair, this is based on the list of contractors to whom NGCP awarded this project. This is also a letter, I guess, dated January 6, 2025, a list of the contractors for projects since 2009. And there seems to be a list of all the contractors, but I just want to follow up on certain number of foreign contractors, which apparently happens to be Chinese-owned. No? Alaman po natin ng China, there's no such thing in China as privately owned companies. No? I mean, we all know it by to the letter and as a fact that China is a communist party. So all companies, huge companies, it's either owned directly by the state or substantially owned by the Chinese Politburo. No? There's no such thing as free market in terms of companies existing or operating within China. So all these companies have a tremendous interest by the Chinese Politburo. And when you talk about Chinese Politburo, you're talking about Chinese Communist Party, and you talk about Chinese Communist Party, you talk about China in particular. So let me just ask our Secretariat here if you can just flash some of those list of companies that have already been awarded with contracts. These are 18 companies, Mr. Chair. Meron ba dyan? Mr. Chair, I'd just like to zero in on some, andyan ba yung ano? I hope, Mr. Chair, this will not be deducted from my time. Are we ready, our technical persons? But at any rate, let me just ask na lang, no? Ayan. These lists are from NGCP po. Let me just be selective. Yung sa 12, yung sa China Camsi Engineering Company Limited, Camsi. Mr. Chair, for the information of the general public, for brevity, this corporation is a subsidiary of Sinomac, or the China National Machinery Industry Corporation. Sinomac, Mr. Chair, in turn, is a state-owned enterprise of the People's Republic of China. Would you confirm this, that you have a contract that was awarded to China Camsi Engineering Company Limited? Yes, Mr. Almeida.
We confirm, Mr. Chair.
Okay, see, thank you very much. And that Sinomac, just recently, I guess, Mr. Chair, has constructed on March 28. I think this has already been ano no? Tapos na po itong project ng Ricuri. Can you ask the next slide? Yeah. So that's a project, Mr. Chair. The total contract value of $73.04 million. This is the Chico River Pump Irrigation Project. Would you confirm that this actually happened, Mr. Chair? Attorney, Mr. Rico Vega.
Mr. Chair, that is not an NGCP project.
Okay, that's not NGCP. Oh, that's the picture. Okay, thank you very much. This is a good thing about having this presentation because you can either confirm nor deny, no? So thank you. But Mr. Chair, CAMSI, according to our research po, the Sinomac, no, CAMSI is also the barred entity according to Asian Development Bank's database. Can we follow the next slide? Can we present the next slide? The reason why I'm showing you this po, Attorney Sagayo, is to dispel the rumors that we are closing the gap. If possible, walang portal to any foreign manipulation sa ating transmission ng energy power. No? Okay. This would anyway provide this committee, and for your understanding as well, na kailangan talagang tamang yung sinabi ni Congressman Ernix, na tama magkakasama-sama tayo dito pagdating sa pagprotekta na ating national sovereignty. No? True. So, would you know, Mr. Chair, Attorney Sagayo, are you familiar that the same company has already been, according to Asian Development Bank's database, that there was a report of an anti-corruption integrity standards violation on the grounds of anti-corruption integrity standards. So, according po sa Asian Development Bank, ay ban po itong kumpanya na ito. The barred entity according to the classification of Asian Development Bank. And even corroborated also by the World Bank that this company has committed so much violations in other countries. Would you be familiar with this, Mr. Chair, Attorney Sagayo? Can you confirm if my research and my document is correct? By the way, ang project po, according to the document that I have, ang project po ng CAMSI na na-awardan po is the project of upgrading of transmission line. Tama po ba? Ito po yung supply and delivery of various equipment, materials, and accessories for Western Luzon, 500 kV backbone project, Stage 2, Schedule 3, second rebidding, SP23.W, ito mga technical na to. So, basically, according to the data that I have, the upgrading of the Panitan, Nabas, 138 kV transmission line. This was already awarded to the same company that I have been mentioning, as well as Visayas Substation Upgrading Project 2, Schedule 4, to design, supply, installation, testing, commissioning of high voltage equipment, including secondary devices, at DGIL Substation. Visayas Substation Upgrading Project 2, again, rebidding offshore portion. So there are all the, can we ask our technical people to please show those projects and that have already been awarded to this company. Can you confirm, Attorney Sagayo, Attorney Rico, have you already awarded all these projects to this company?
Can we request to again show the list?
Okay. Can you show the list? Yeah, those are the projects.
For China Kamsi?
Yeah.
The previous...
No, that's not China Kamsi. That's China, that's one. We will go to that. Pero ito po yung China Kamsi. That's the, can you go back to the previous slide? That's it.
Yeah, I confirm, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Now, let me go to the next slide. Fujian Electric Power Engineering Company. The slide that you just shown earlier, before we ask you to go to the... There's another company, Fujian Electric Power Engineering Company, which also has which you awarded the project of 2030 kVE, Reinforcement Project Stage 2, sa Bataan. Supply and delivery of high voltage equipment and materials. Meron din po dyan. But do you confirm that this company also has been awarded with several of these projects? Itong Clark, Mabiga, 69 kV transmission line project, Dasmariñas, 500 kV substation, fifth bank transformers, and the list goes on. Can we ask our secretariat to please show the slides? Next slide, please. That's it. Would you confirm, Mr. Viga?
Mr. Chairman, I confirm, sir.
You confirm. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now, let me go to another slide. I'm more interested in yung kanina po tinatanong ni Congresswoman Jinky Luistro about NARI group. Familiar po kayo dito, no? Just I know you have already been answered this, but I just want to for the purpose of record, familiar po kayo sa NARI NARI Group Corporation. Tama po ba? Did I say it right?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, you're familiar with that. And ang gusto ko lang po malaman dito sa NARI na to, is NARI affiliated with my question, meron bang State Grid International Development Limited representing or own a certain stocks, that's why it may sit sa board? Do you confirm this, board ng NGCP? State Grid International Development Limited, do they have a representative in the board of directors of NGCP?
Representatives, yes, Mr.
They have a
Chairman,
seat?
yes.
Okay. Yeah. So, is State Grid International, a subsidiary of State Grid Corporation of China, affiliated with I think the State Grid International is a subsidiary Grid Corporation of China, is it correct?
Of State Grid Corporation of
Yes,
China.
of China.
Yes, yes.
That is correct. Okay. So, is NARI now, the company, is he connected, affiliated with State Grid Corporation of China? Is it a subsidiary of State Grid International Development, NARI?
Can we check on that, Mr. Chairman, and can we revert?
Yeah, can we go back to the previous slides? Because according to Mr. Chair, according to my records, NARI is directly affiliated to the State Grid Corporation of China, or SGCC, which you confirmed just now that it is also connected with the State Grid International Development Limited, which is also connected and affiliated with a subsidiary of State Grid Corporation of China.
Yeah. As to whether NARI is connected with SGDIL
Yes, po.
or what, can we revert to you on this during the next meeting?
But could you at least confirm to this representation that indeed NARI, State Grid International Development Limited has a seat in the board of NGCP.
Yes, yes, Mr. Chairman.
In that the State Grid International subsidiary, which has a seat in the board, is a subsidiary of the State Grid Corporation of China.
SGDIL is a
Yes.
subsidiary of SGCC.
That is correct?
Yes, yes, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
According to my records, Mr. Chair, is that NARI is directly affiliated to the State Grid Corporation of China, or SGCC. Na-mention
That's
niyo
what
po.
we need to check, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman.
Please, kindly, please. Kasi ang gusto ko lang pong malaman that also NARI has been awarded with certain projects. Can we go to the next slide? Next slide. Oh, no. Can you go back? Go back. One slide. Yes, that's Mr. Chair. Those are the projects that have been awarded to NARI Corporation. Andyan po, Luzon Voltage Improvement Projects, Stage 2, and many others. No, I will not enumerate to you po, Mr. Chair, Attorney Sagayo, but can you confirm, Mr. Vega, if these projects have been awarded to NARI?
I confirm, Mr. Chair, the SCADA. No? But
Yeah.
for the rest, can we check, sir?
Okay. Thank you. Now, the reason why, Mr. Chair, I'm showing you this is that, di ba, balikan ko po yung tanong ko kanina, that the biddings and awards should be stringent. Tama po. And we agreed on that. But what is, to me, puzzling, no, at this point in time, and I do not find fault here. I just want to base my questions on facts and records. What is confusing to me, Mr. Chair, I don't know how you adopt or implement a certain policy covering your bids and awards, but sa amin po, pag isa pong umuupo sa isang board of directors, halimbawa, dahil affiliated, well-connected ang NARI, would it be a conflict of interest to award certain huge projects to a company that has an influence on how a highest policy-making body of NGCP sits, no? Halimbawa, ang SGCC ba yun? SGCC, which is directly affiliated with NARI, tapos na-awardan ng company ng contract na meron silang stake doon sa board na yon. Would it be it's a conflict of interest? I don't know how you run the company or your board, but to me, as an ordinary person, I would say that it is a conflict of interest. Would you agree with me? Would that be a fair assessment, Attorney Sagayo?
Yeah, as we have said, Mr. Chairman, just to be sure with respect to our reply, and we undertake to check into this and revert.
Yeah, because we're talking here of transmission lines po.
Correct.
And we agreed that sabi nga po ni Congresswoman Stella Kimbo kanina, I was listening to her interpellation, ang future incoming mayor po natin ng Marikina, tama po yung pagkasabi niya, he tried to bring down the discussion to a level where our consumers would understand. Now, when we talk about grid, these are considered parang it likened to a highway. Now, pag ganito po yung mga projects na sinasabi po natin, huge transmission lines and projects, tapos yung isang state-owned companies by China, Republic of China, has an asset. I don't care whether they have a minimal influence in the board, but as long as they at least influence to some extent the direction of the company to where these awards are to be given, which companies are to given to me, would be a undue advantage and to a very large extent a conflict of interest. And I hope the board of NGCP would look into this, because this is where some of the members of the committee may have apprehension na bakit naman ganon, na kung if you're trying to insulate the board kasi you're talking about transmission of power energy and supply to our communities, you should at least, as far as you can, as best as you can, push all the influence of foreign companies from ever influencing the direction of the board.
we take note of those.
Yeah, because that's
Comments,
basically
Mr.
where we
Chairman.
are coming from. We have all
Yeah.
this apprehension because we've seen, according to the documents that you have passed and you have confirmed these projects and this, medyo
We
nakakabahala
understand
din po.
for,
Tama po
for
ba yun?
the
Would that be
Honorable
a fair
Congressman.
assessment?
We understand that and we appreciate it, Mr. Chairman. We look
Okay.
into all of these things.
Yes, thank you. Can we go to my next question po? Are you familiar also with Shandong Electric Power Engineering Consulting Institute? This is a subsidiary of State Power Investment Corporation Limited, SPIC, which is reported as a state-owned company by China. Are you familiar with that also? Can we go to the next slide?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
may I just lend some, I can give the copy.
Yeah. Mr. Chair,
we-
may we recognize attorney? I'm sorry, medyo
Alabanza.
ano po yung name, ayan,
Alabanza.
Alabanza.
Yes,
Just
sir.
to give justice po sa pangalan niyo, attorney.
Actually, that kind of transaction is allowed under a concession agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, as long as the transaction is held at arm's length. So since we go through a competitive selection process, it's considered arm's length even though the supplier will be related to any of our stockholders. So it's specifically provided in our concession agreement under Article 8.07.
Yeah, thank you for pointing out that. Now, let me go back to my previous manifestation before I ask the questions. The Bids and Awards Committee, I don't know how you adopt a stringent measures in order to protect, because the Bids and Awards and Procurement Awards Committee, as I understand it as a layman, does not only concerns itself with measuring the capacity, the assets, and the potential of these companies to deliver services according to the contract, but you also need to review and vet and assess the backgrounds of these companies. The reason why I'm pointing this out is there seems to be companies na medyo blacklisted sa international. So I guess the point that I'm trying to drive at is, yes, they're capable, they have all the assets, they can deliver the goods, they can deliver the projects, but if the reputation is off question, I believe we're talking here of international companies. I think the NGCP has to do more to check on the backgrounds of these companies, because that gives us, it reinforces our apprehension that maybe may na-overlook. No? Kasi we're talking of opening up our space for these companies, our domestic space, our national assets, our national resources to do business with these companies. Now, if these companies are blacklisted internationally or have bad records, I think there's a major consideration for NGCP to look into, especially if the company that has been awarded with huge amount of money is connected with the one that sits in the board. Tama po ba yung assessment ko?
Mr. Chair, your observations are well taken. We do have a vetting process. I'm just going to confirm to what extent these are
I will not agree on that, Mr. Attorney. May we ask the former president of Transco, what's your assessment on this? Tama po ba yung aking assessment?
Thank you.
Kasi pinag-uusapan po natin dito, hindi lang negosyo, national security din po.
Absolutely correct po. Napakaganda po na observation nyo. And also to mention, wala naman po yung sinasabi po ni Alabanza, with all due respect, there's no provision in the concession agreement allowing those things to happen. And in fact, maybe we can ask the ERC because they put up a guidelines when there is a bidding proceedings. Kasi malinaw po yan eh. What is good for the gander is good also for dogs. Ganun lang yan. Pero para tayo naglolokohan dito pag sinabi natin pinayagan yan. Maybe, Mr. Chair, you can ask the...
Mr. Chair, I think also I agree. Let me remind everyone, I personally will not finding faults in everyone. Gusto ko lang po malinis yung records at true tayo dun sa gusto natin protektahan, which is our national sovereignty. Now, that's why the reason why I'm asking this, because it might open up the portal. We're trying to close the gap, no? ARC,
Mr.
do you
Chair.
have...
Mr. Chair, if I may. Mr. Chair, if I may. Okay naman kay Kong Zia.
Yeah, please, but I hope it will not be deducted from my time.
It is.
Yeah.
Zia.
Okay lang.
Yes, Attorney. Yes,
Kasi
Kong.
for the last 3 or 4 hours, I've been listening to that guy, Attorney Matibag. Parang ano yung, ang angas mo. Parang ang angas mo. You try to tone down your ano. To avoid yung mga salita na parang offensive, di ba?
Yeah, Mr.
Hindi
Chair.
tayo naglulukohan dito. Hindi tayo naglulukohan dito. So yung you try to avoid using those words.
Mr. Chair, I
Okay?
apologize for that. But I'm
No,
sorry if
no.
I'm passionate
Don't like
about
that
what I'm
attitude.
saying.
No.
May,
Try to avoid that thing. Yung tono mo, wag ganyan. Parang adversarial eh. Hindi maganda pa pakinggan. Kanina pa yan. Kanina ka pa.
okay.
Well, Mr. Chair, I
Attorney
apologize.
Matibag.
I apologize for that.
Okay,
Maybe
so
I'm just so passionate when it comes to national security. And siguro, kanya-kanya lang siguro tayong positioning on that matter. Maybe ganun siguro yung pananaw sa akin ng of the honorable member. But ang sa akin lang dito, kaya ako sinasabi yun, I've been hearing this for 5 years. That's why I'm saying, when it comes to that, tingnan natin yung guidelines ng ERC when it comes to the bidding.
Yeah, so
Sorry
just
to hear
be,
that, pero that
just
doesn't
be,
give you the authority to
yeah, wait,
write to-
let's just be cautious sa ating pananalita, no? Dahil it can offend our members and other resource persons. So let's drive home the point para klaro, no? In a very nice and respectful manner. So please, Attorney, Congressman
Mr. Chair.
Zia,
Thank you.
you still have the floor.
Mr. Chair.
Just, you have 2 more minutes.
Mr. Chair, can I just add?
Yes.
Yung arm's length na yun, there's a continuation of that section. It's limited under $1 million.
Sorry, what was that?
Di ba, pwede silang mag-arm's length na with affiliated or, pero kailangan under 1 million, under the concession.
Under $1 million, we're talking of dollars or...
Dollars, sir.
Which legal tender are we talking here? Dollars or peso?
Dollars po, sir.
Dollars, okay. Mr. Chair, kanina po, I asked the utility to bring down the temperature in the room. Medyo umiinit na, so may I ask the utility to bring it up.
Okay. So,
Medyo umiinit na.
okay. So, medyo
Umiinit na, Mr.
umiinit
Chair.
na naman.
Umiinit na.
Umiinit na
Medyo
mga
mainit
ano
dito
na,
sa-
umiinit din.
dito, medyo
Sa kaliwa.
umiinit.
Okay.
Kaliwa ko.
Sa kanan ko. Okay. Go ahead. Kong Sia, 2 more minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, again, I'd like to ask ERC, how do you regulate this? Because you've been given that power to regulate, to make sure that precisely, I agree with Congressman Rufus Rodriguez, precisely why you're there, is in order also to regulate, some companies were doing business here in the country, especially if it concerns about our national assets, which is still maintained, owned by the by the state, to make sure that any business dealings with any of these foreign companies would be regulated. They will be regulated. It will be checked. So in terms of all this, the companies that I have brought up, how do you have the power to even go deeper into the bids and process? Because this is in aid of legislation, Mr. Chair, and we also want to find out maybe may gaps in the law. So maybe you can also be guided. ERC?
Mr. Chair, in May 2023 po, we issued what we call the procurement guidelines for regulated entities. So it governs the manner by which, as you had described earlier, regulated entities will procure supplies and services, goods, supplies, and services. So meron pong provision doon for conflict of interest and related party transactions or procurement from related group. So hindi pa po namin na-review yung compliance po ni NGCP doon, pero nakikinig nga din po ako kanina na isasama na po namin ito doon sa review. Nag-file naman po sila ng kanilang annual procurement plan, but I don't think it went to the level of detail na sinubmit po nila dito sa Kongreso.
Okay. Would you confirm, Attorney, ma'am, the one wearing a purple... Ma'am, sorry po. Pasensya na po, Ma'am, would you confirm that according to ERC, there's in the bids processes and guidelines, there's also that... Can you, Mr. Chair, can I ask ERC again to please specify? And kanina po may sinabi po si Yusek Garin the better ka rin. About a certain, they can actually engage, but a certain limitation, only $1 million. Can you go back again to what, ano po yung sinabi nyo? There's a provision?
Procurement, meron po kaming procurement guidelines. It applies not just to NGCP but to distribution utilities as well.
Okay. Attorney, there's procurement guidelines that the ARC has adopted. How can this particular case that I've pointed out to you, the NARI, which is closely or directly affiliated with SGCC, those who sits in the board, do not violate that provision in the bidding guidelines by ERC? Yes, please enlighten me on this.
Mr. Chair, I have to revert to the concession agreement on this. The section I was referring to, yes, that's correct. Yusek Garin is correct that there is a limit to that, but that doesn't mean that transactions above 1 million are prohibited. Second, Mr. Chair, there's a specific definition to what they call a related party, and I have to double check as regards whether this definition includes NARI, because a quick surface reading of it, in my opinion, sir, again, we have to double check.
Wala pa naman po batas, lahat po naman opinion ito lahat
Opo,
sa
hindi
atin.
po kasi siya mukhang sakop ng definition ng related party ang NARI. So NARI is too far from NGCP itself to be considered a related party. So technically, it's too far to pose a conflict of interest.
So ganito na lang po, Mr. Chair, Attorney. Maybe later on, I would require certain documents to be submitted to this committee. And then ibabangga na lang po namin doon sa sinasabi po ng ERC. Again, sabi ko nga, we are not here to find faults. We are just here to maintain that good business still exists in the country without sacrificing an iota of maybe probably surrendering our national security interest. Yes, do you have any follow-up?
I mentioned earlier that we do have a vetting process, and I confirmed already that we do have a vetting process for both financial and technical track record for evaluation. And as regards the blacklisting, once they are blacklisted anywhere, they are not accredited. So if there were any transactions with blacklisted companies, these may have been accredited prior to the blacklisting. But again, we will confirm the timing because again, we don't accredit or allow suppliers that have been blacklisted.
I will, Mr. Chair, thank you, Attorney, for that. And thank you for at least toning down my apprehension. But I will give you the list of those companies connected with China that have ongoing projects awarded to them by the NGCP. Kanina, nasite ko po yung may pong company po dyan, blacklisted po siya sa ADB, blacklisted po sa ano. But if I take your response correctly, sana hindi na nangyari yun, sana hindi na award. But unfortunately, I think ongoing pa itong mga projects na to. So I think you have to do, I'm sorry, but I have to say this. country, and to be particular, such as China, which is adversarial in so many other areas with the Philippines. Tama nga sabi ni Congressman Congresswoman Luistro. So I think you have to at least raise the bar of your appreciation when it comes to foreign companies doing business here in the country, because that would leave you at the entail of all the blames and GCP, and we do not want to see Filipinos getting all the punches and the blames simply because you are too comfortable and too confident that because they're doing business here ay wala na silang other interest. Remember, there's no such thing as private companies operating in China. All the state companies, especially those who are doing business outside of China, are owned by the Chinese Politburo, Chinese Communist Party. So, yun lang po, Mr. Chair, yung kung where we are all coming from. So I guess, do we have a response to that? Would that be a fair assessment?
Mr. Chair, we completely understand where this committee is coming from, and we do undertake to review our processes and tighten what needs to be tightened. And that is a commitment consistent with our mandate as a public service utility, and as well I speak, I think, for the Filipino shareholders, that is something we will commit to do.
Kasi I believe that all of us have our own similar interest, and that is to protect our national sovereignty. Ma'am Yusek, what do you think of my assessment? Is it fair? Is it too patriotic? Is it too conservative? I'd like to get, Mr. Chair, the position of the DOE that if we are to do business, I'm not just talking about NGCP, but any businesses na nag-open ng equity, share, foreign equity, dapat ba ang pinaka-interest ng board ay hindi payagan na mapalagay ang ating bansa sa yung delikado or kapahamakan. Tama ho ba yun?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The fact that everything's legal in that sense, that it follows all the legal requirements, there is also the supreme power of the legislature and the executive and the president, that in cases of threat to national security or that they can exercise such powers that they have. So kaya nga thank you for the deliberation today. Kasi Mr. Chair, this is the powers and the authority granted to NGCP was granted by Congress, and it's if there is anything violated there or not complied with, it is beyond the powers of the executive as of now. Kasi if you wonder why has there been no thorough regulation on the part of DOE, for example, Mr. Chair, we are limited by what was mandated to us by the franchise, by Congress. So I think that part maybe has been missed when the franchise was enacted, and in considering what is happening now, not only on the NGCP side, but the political and I think it is also a vital concern. Kasi po, there are laws that we have considered. We have to consider. Now we have Public Service Act, foreign investment. These are strategic investments, and we have declared in those laws that it should be nationalized companies. Now, if there are questions, there are ways to implement that legally, but still the threat to us is there, then I think Congress can properly act on it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that response. And maybe can I just a request for 30 seconds or maybe a minute of manifestation, Mr. Chair.
Please.
I know my time is up. Mr. Chair, it pains us to see Attorney Paul Sagayo, Mr. Rico Vega, of course my fraternity brother, attorney, at the opposite side of the table. Tingnan mo, tayo, mga Pilipino tayo yung nagbabangayan, but all the foreign, mga Chinese, wala sila dito. I mean, this speaks a lot in brief, na pagdating sa sisihan, tayo mga Pilipino ang nagtuturuan. Kaya nga po, hindi nyo kami, sa aking palagay, this committee cannot be faulted na medyo apprehensive kami ngayon. Medyo takot kami ngayon. Kasi pagdating sa pagsisisihan, kayo ang pinapaupo dito. Tapos itong mga Chinese ay mag-celebrate sila ng Chinese New Year. Mag-celebrate naman tayo ng Chinese New Year in deference to our Filipino-Chinese community here. But what I'm talking about is if we discuss about business, and when it comes to business, I would say I'm liberal. Gusto ko actively mag-participate ang ating bansa sa pag-usbong ng ating ekonomiya. But not at the expense of national security. Because I tell you, and this is based on my personal experience, threat could be actual, could be real, it could be imminent, and there's a potential threat. Believe me, 5 months kami nakipagbarilan sa Marawi. At ang pumasok ay mga foreign fighters. Nung una, ayaw namin maniwala. But when it happened, we were caught unsurprised. Flat-footed. I don't want NGCP, to some extent, our energy sector, to be caught unprepared and flat-footed. Kaya nga po, ang constitution natin ay paranoid pagdating sa pag-open ng negosyo na ang gagamitin ay ating natural resources and national assets. Hindi ho ba? So please, do some cleaning up internally. Mr. Chair, for my last manifestation, I would like to request NGCP to submit to us the guidelines on how they do procurement and bidding processes. I would also, I have the privilege, Mr. Chair, to move for a subpoena do sistecum, but I believe all our Filipino brothers and sisters who sits in the NGCP are patriotic, so I do not need to subpoena them. I would simply request that for the purpose of being Filipinos, I would like that the NGCP provide this committee the following, the procurement practices and process of NGCP, your guide, and the policy of the bids and awards, and the sinasabi niyo pong kaninang concession agreement with all these companies involved, especially those companies that listed that I just showed to you. And what are the other ongoing projects? Which locations are they being constructed right now? So I hope, I appeal to you being a Filipino citizen, and as a fellow Filipino, you would comply to this request. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Magandang gabi po sa ating lahat. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much.